Chapter 844. Idiot, you're full of openings. Lu Bu, the man known as Demon God, finally showed his ferocious fangs. In the blink of an eye, Lu Fengxian stomped on the ground before his figure transformed into a jet black light, and then his halberd swept out violently to attack towards the sky. This move was like a tornado, capable of shaking mountains and rivers. Wherever it passed, not even a blade of grass could grow. Beep, beep, beep. In the blink of an eye, the combat power detector on Sapo's face reacted. At this moment, the number reflected in his eyes was 50,000. What the hell? Sapo, who was still in the midst of receiving the attack, exclaimed. What's going on? Impossible. Lu Bu's attack had not hit yet. Everyone watching, including Sapo himself, could see that the outcome of the battle had already been decided. Sapo, in order to escape the encirclement of the halberd, had to endure a round of attacks from Feng and Lu before rising into the sky. In his eyes, this was a good way to trade injuries for opportunities. But in reality, this choice was fatal, because Feng Bujue had already seen through everything. At the beginning of the battle, Brother Zhu had hinted to Lu Bu that he should save all his trump cards and fight in the most basic form. This was to preserve his strength for the later battle with Lu Ji. Secondly, it was to confuse Sapo and make him misjudge Lu Bu's true combat ability. Then, Brother Zhu used the fact that aliens cannot fully understand speech to coordinate with Lu Bu through language. Actually, it was very fast for experts to establish a tacit understanding. At least, it was much faster than rookies. Take dance, for example. If you found a group of professional dancers to practice, they could be done in 1 or 2 hours. But if you found a group of amateurs, they could have to practice for half a day or even a whole day. Plus, the result might not be good. Brother Zhu and Lu Bu were naturally experts. They were not like Yagyu Jianying, who had a set of skills that could not be coordinated with others. Therefore, under Feng Bujue's guidance, the halberd and the halberd complemented each other. The two of them each used 70% of their strength to gain the upper hand. Then, it was time for the actual battle. When Feng and Lu began to work together, Sapo's strategy of luring the enemy to harass each other was completely useless. If he could calm down and think of a way, he might be able to keep his life. It was a pity that his cruel personality had also fallen into Brother Zhu's trap. Feng Bujue had been waiting for Sapo to act out of desperation. Just as Sapo was about to launch his final counterattack, his Brother Zhu immediately reacted. Feng Bujue, who was prepared and had zero-time difference calculation ability, cleverly used the blade of must-break defense to damage Sapo's combat suit to the greatest extent within his ability and left several wounds on his body. If one had to make an analogy, Brother Zhu was like an ant digging a hole in a dam. Perhaps it would be a huge wave that would break the dam in the end, but as the saying goes, 1,000-mile dike will collapse at the tip of an ant's nest. It was precisely because of the foreshadowing from before that many little drops made a mickle and many advantages made a mickle. That was why this sure-kill opportunity had appeared in front of him. At that moment, Sapo, who had gathered his energy in his palm, did not have any extra energy to protect his body. His body had lost its momentum. He did not have the time to charge up his attack. He was panicking, and he was defenseless. Furthermore, Lu Bu's sudden burst of power was far beyond Sapo's expectation. He had thought that Lu Bu's speed was just SOSO, but he did not expect that when Lu Bu was slightly more serious, he could launch an attack that was so fast that he could not react to it. In the face of that unavoidable and unblockable move, Sapo roared out one of the most commonly used last words of the villains of the Dragon Ball universe. Bakana, Japanese pronunciation of impossible. Shadows flashed, halberd swung. Flesh and blood crumbled, and the murderous aura dissipated. Ha! After tearing his opponent apart, Lu Bu laughed madly. He spun in the air before landing on his feet. The battle has ended. Feng Bujue, Lu Bu, challenge successful. The announcing statue used an emotionless tone to announce the result. This seemed to be a good thing, but none of the spectators below the stage revealed a happy expression. because they all understood that Sapo's death probably meant the arrival of Yuan Luzi. From various perspectives, Yuan Luzi was a man of his word, and it was not an exaggeration to say that he was a man of his word. Since he had promised before that he would personally come down after Sapo was defeated, then there was a 99% chance that he would come down. Lu Bu. Moments later, the Demon King's scary voice came from the sky. You did not disappoint me. Humph. Lu Bu raised his halberd with one hand, pointed to the sky, and shouted, Don't be long-winded, Yuan Luzi. His eyes flashed with incomparable excitement. As the ultimate prey, let me enjoy it. Huh? After hearing this, Yuan Luzi's multiple voices let out a strange laugh. That laughter had a trace of disdain, indifference, and a trace of helplessness. It floated in the Wushuang plains. The laughter contained a complex emotion, as if it was telling the Demon King's feeling of being too cold at the top. Ha! Fine. Yuan Luzi laughed. After all, the martial art competition has been going on for a few days, and basically all the powerhouses in this dimension have gathered. At this point, he paused for 2 seconds. In these 2 seconds, a stream of demonic energy gushed down from Heavenly Abyss where Guji City was and bombarded the center of the stage. In the blink of an eye, the wind and clouds changed, and a black light rose. An invisible pressure fell on the shoulders of everyone present. The Demon King had arrived. Powerhouses. Yuan Luzi's tall figure finally appeared in front of everyone. Come and challenge me. As his voice fell, he waved seamless in his hand, and a stream of demonic energy shot out. It easily shattered the barrier around the stage into pieces. At this moment, the players heard a system notification. Current quest has been changed. Main quest has been updated. 7 kills, Xiao Tan and Ruo Yu, the 3 of them who were watching the battle, made the same reaction. They immediately jumped away from the other 2. After ensuring that they would not be ambushed, they opened the game menu and looked at the quest tab. The original main quest, when the martial arts competition, had disappeared, and in its place were 2 new quests. Join Yuan Luzi, Frisia, or Qi Tianyi's camp and survive until the victor is decided, and become the only surviving player in the scenario. Chapter 845. The arrival of the Demon King shook the world. The crowd's expressions changed, and everyone was alarmed. At this moment, the 2 people who were the calmest were actually the 2 people who were standing on the martial arts stage closest to Lu Ji. Feng Bujua's expression was calm, but his mind was racing. Lu Fengxian smiled and rubbed his palms. Come, Yuan Luzi. Lu Bu slammed his halberd on the ground and stood proudly. Today, I will defeat you here. Hee hee. Yuan Luzi chuckled softly. This king looks forward to it. At the same time, below the stage, cough. Head of the strings. Seeing that the Demon King had arrived, Marquis Ji knew that the time had come. He coughed and said to Tsang, Since things have come to this, let's proceed with the plan. Leave this to me, Tsang replied seriously. Head of the strings. Marquis Ji looked at Tsang with admiration and sorrow. Sai, be careful. He wanted to say something, but hesitated. In the end, he could only say these 2 words. The 2 of you don't have to act like you're going to be separated forever, right? Jia Lugong looked at them from the side and said, Even if you're going to be separated forever, you don't have to be so lovey-dovey, right? Tsang chuckled, but didn't say anything. And this chuckle soon turned into a bitter smile. Cough, cough. Marquis Ji Lugong changed the topic. All right, Jilu, quickly contact Mr. Urahara and activate the seal. I don't need you to tell me. I've already called Yuan Luzi the moment he appeared. Jia Lugong said as he raised his right hand and spoke into the communication device in his hand. Hello, Urahara-san, you heard everything, right? Everything is ready. You can start at any time. A gentle and lazy voice came from the other side of the communication device. Okay, I'll do it then, Jialu replied and put away his communicator. 2 seconds later, he exchanged glances with Marquis Ji Lugong and Tsang. Then he placed his palms on the ground, closed his eyes, and focused on chanting. Spirits of the earth and wind, recognize the light I've left behind and lead those stars to another star formation. At this point, with his feet as the center, a magic array hidden in the ground suddenly bloomed and expanded rapidly, enclosing an area with a radius of several kilometers. Light star shifting formation. Jielu urged the mana in his body to activate the sealing formation. At the same time, Yuan Lu Ji, who was on the stage, seemed to have sensed some kind of energy fluctuation. He immediately turned his gaze to Emperor Jiel Lagong in the distance. "Heh!" The Demon King thought for a moment and sneered. Then he looked at Lu Bu. "Looks like our battle will have to be postponed again." "What?" Lu Bu was puzzled. "What do you mean?" Lu Bu's body turned into a beam of light and soared into the sky, disappearing into the horizon at an extremely fast speed. He wasn't the only one. At this moment, within the Inferno River barrier, i.e., the area around the martial arts stage and its surroundings, nearly half of the superdimensional experts had turned into light and flew towards the northern sky. This included 3 of the 5 players: Feng Bujue, Wang Tanji, and Li Ruoyu. Yuan Lu Ji turned his head and looked at the Chief Xian below the stage. "It's your doing, Song." Demon King. Song's face was as cold as ice. He looked at Yuan Lu Ji coldly and replied arrogantly, "Why do you ask when you already know the answer?" Finished speaking, Song flew up and shouted, "Everyone, please listen to Song." His voice was like a sudden clap of thunder that reached everyone's ears. Those who were teleported out just now have gathered elsewhere and are preparing to attack Guji City. As long as we trap Yuan Lu Ji here, it won't take long for the seal in the city to be broken, and all the dimensions will return to their original positions. At this point, Song's plan in the dark had finally surfaced. Although the appearance of Frisia's group was unexpected, objectively speaking, it was a good thing. Firstly, because of Zebo's interference, Yuan Lu Ji's appearance had been brought forward, which greatly reduced the number of potential casualties. Secondly, if the head of the Bao's delaying tactic failed because the Demon King was too strong, as long as Frisia, this uninvited guest, could arrive in time to delay Yuan Lu Ji's footsteps. Yuan Lu Ji replied in a deep voice. "It does seem like a plan you would make." He looked at Song with a meaningful gaze. The chief of the 6 strings, selfless, slaying demons and defending justice, sacrificing himself for justice. Then he raised Seamless in his hand and pointed it at Song. "Let me use my absolute power to respond to your determination." Facing the Demon King's declaration, Song did not back down. He was a cultivator, and his state of mind had already transcended the mortal world. As the saying goes, knowing the secrets of heaven and following the will of heaven. He had already put aside matters of life and death. Even if Song had already calculated that his fate would end here, he still did not turn back. Together with Marquis Lonely, Urahara Kisuk, and Zhuge Liang, he had set up today's plan. Set up the array. As he spoke, Song had already flown onto the stage and said these 2 words. As soon as he finished speaking, 3 figures followed closely behind. They flew onto the stage and stood around Yuan Lu Ji. These 3 people were Windmark, Minamoto Musashi, and Blackie. This was not the one who played basketball, but the referee of the Samurai series. Heroes below the stage. Song said loudly, "If we break the array and die, please find a way to continue delaying Yuan Lu Ji. Do not let him escape back to Guji City. Otherwise, all our efforts will be in vain." "Oh." Yuan Lu Ji's expression changed slightly. Mystic Gang Sword Array. He saw through the array at a glance, and glanced at the 4 people who were setting up the array. "I understand." In just a few seconds, he looked back at Song and said, "You will be the eye of the array. Minamoto Musashi will be the shield, Windmark will be the quick attack, and Blackie will be the eye of the array." Not bad. Blackie, who was wearing a black close-fitting cotton shirt, a black cloth hat, and a black square cloth to cover his face, said in a critical tone, "He saw through our formation before the battle even started. No wonder. You are the unparalleled Demon King." Minamoto Musashi said in a deep voice. "But," Song said, "You can see through the array, but you may not be able to break through it." "That's right," Windmark said coldly with both swords in his hands. "Haha." Yuan Lu Ji laughed joyfully. "Such a formation is rare." He paused for a moment. Then, "Who will be guarding the array?" "Yo, everyone." At this moment, a middle-aged man slowly walked onto the stage. "Sorry, I'm late." Chapter 846. On the other hand, at the same time, in a canyon in the north of Wushuang Plains. Phew! A golden-haired man wearing a white hat with green stripes and a green kimono was busy in front of an instrument. He was mumbling, "This magnetic north is really useful. The magic treasures in your universe are really powerful." Mr. Urahara really likes to joke. Beside him, a Confucian dressed in a gorgeous purple robe was gently waving his purple dragon fan. He smiled and said, "In front of your Hogyoku, how many magic weapons can be called powerful?" The two people who were talking, one was called Urahara Kisuk, a character in Bleach, the former captain of the 12th Division, the former director and founder of the Technology Development Bureau. The other was called Shalu Longsu, the first dragon head of the Confucian school, one of the top 3 sects. "Aha! Dragon head, you must be joking." Urahara smiled enigmatically. "That kind of dangerous item that can't be controlled can't be called a magic weapon. It's most appropriate to seal it." "Get out of my way." Suddenly, a shout came from afar, interrupting their conversation. At this time, on the other side of the canyon, those strong people who turned into light were listening to Zhuge Liang's explanation of the teleportation just now. But there was one person who wanted to leave after hearing the beginning, and that person was Lu Fengxian. "You can't leave." A white-robed monk blocked in front of Lu Bu, not letting him pass. This monk had a bun on his head, long hair on his temples, and white hair on his forehead. He had a dignified appearance. He wore a snow-white cloak and carried a sword on his back. If it weren't for his hairstyle, no one would think that he was a monk. Most people would think that he was a swordsman. Humph! Buddhist sword parting theory. Lu Bu recognized this person because he had fought with him before. "Can you stop me?" Buddhist sword didn't answer this question. More often than not, he liked to use actions instead of words. So at this moment, his hand was slowly reaching for the sword on his back. "Wait!" Zhuge Liang, who was standing on the high ground, quickly came out to mediate the situation. "You two, you have no reason to fight. Making a big fuss here is just a waste of energy." After saying that, Brother Kongming looked at Buddhist sword Fanshua and said, "Master, since General Lu insists on leaving, just let him go." He paused for half a second and said in his usual calm tone, "This attack on Guji City, even without him leading the way, I still have a way." Strategist Zhuge was a very reliable person. Since he had said so, the Buddhist sword naturally felt at ease. Thus, the Buddhist sword opened up a path for Lu Bu to leave. At the same time, Kongming returned to a high rock and continued his unfinished words. He said loudly to the crowd, "In short, the reason why all of you are here is that when you entered the Fire River barrier, your bodies were marked by the mark that we buried in advance. With the help of the equipment made by Mr. Urahara, the magic of Mr. Gangdishi, and the magnetic north left by the Holy Father, C.I. Hongdu, a character in the Lightning World, who had passed away in the original work and was killed by Yuan Lu Ji in the early stage of this script, we invited all of you here. Can I ask a question?" At this time, Feng Bujue, who was in the crowd, opened his mouth. He did not wait for Kongming to answer him yes or no, and asked directly, "Is there any basis for screening the people who were sent here and the people who stayed there?" Kongming heard this and looked deeply at Brother Ju. Then he replied, "Of course there is." Before he could start to explain, Sima Yi, who was standing at the side, took half a step forward and interrupted. "Humph! Isn't it obvious? Since we can tamper with the Fire River barrier, naturally, we can do the same thing to the barrier of the martial arts arena." "Oh!" Brother Ju immediately nodded and said thoughtfully, "So, the people who were sent here, regardless of winning or losing, have all been in the arena, right?" It was obvious that Brother Jew had already guessed the rules of the screening in his heart. He asked this question just to prove his inference. Yes, Kong Ming replied. Except for Marquis Lonely and Mr. Gangdishi, the people who were sent here all had 2 layers of engravings on the Fire River Barrier and the barrier of the martial arts arena at the same time. And the people who stayed at the edge of the martial arts arena and were not sent here only had 1 layer of engravings on the Fire River Barrier. At this point, there was one thing that Kong Ming did not explain, and that was Song, Feng Jihen, Yuan Wuzong, and He Zi were all people who knew the layout in advance. From the beginning, they planned to stay at the martial arts arena and use the Xingang sword formation to trap Yuan Luji. Therefore, they had already discussed. In the first 2 days of the martial arts competition, they would not be present. They would wait until the 3rd day to enter the Fire River barriers separately. This way, they could reduce the probability of their names being called. Of course, even if their names were called, they would immediately forfeit. Ah, I see. After hearing Kong Ming's answer, Feng Bujua thought to himself, for us players, the difference is, the players who have fought in the arena will be sent here, but the players who have not fought in the arena and chose to forfeit when their names are called will stay at the martial arts arena. He glanced at the game menu and looked at the 2 IDs, 7 kills and flower on the stone. Even though this is different from my previous speculation, the general idea is similar. The people who stay at the martial arts arena will undoubtedly be in more danger. His eyes darted around, and he looked at Ruo Yu and Xiao Tan who were mixed in the crowd. After Brother Ju was sent to the ground, the first thing he did was to locate these 2 people. The 3 of us who have fought in the arena will be sent to an environment where order still exists, and we will still be in a state where it is not convenient for us to attack our own people. Cough, cough. Then, now, a moment later, Marquis Lonely also leaped onto the tall rock. He coughed and said to the crowd, "Please calm down. Cough, cough." It was hard to listen to him speak. Just as Mr. Kong Ming said, everyone who is here, regardless of winning or losing, has fought in the arena. Cough. Since you have fought in the arena, you will have some injuries. So, he raised his finger to point at a shadow behind the crowd. We have invited Bodhisattva Jin Lu Li to heal everyone's injuries. The Bodhisattva Jin Lu Li that he mentioned came from the world of lightning and was a Buddhist master. The Bodhisattva was dressed in a pale yellow robe, and her body was covered in Buddhist light. She looked dignified, and her presence was otherworldly. She had great wisdom and compassion, and she followed the teachings of Buddhism. She was as gentle as the spring breeze, and people could not help but admire her. Furthermore, Bodhisattva Jin Lu Li's healing power was not something that mortals could compare to. Physical injuries, surgeries, were nothing to her. Basically, as long as one was still breathing, he or she, the Bodhisattva, did not have a clear gender, could be saved. As for more unique injuries like strange poisons, abnormal primordial spirits, and damaged foundations, the Bodhisattva had her own methods. At this moment, Bodhisattva Jin Lu Li continued Marquis Lonely's explanation and explained to the crowd, "A magic circle has been set up here. When you stepped in, I already started to heal you. In another 10 minutes, it will be done. No wonder my life points, stamina points, and sorcery points are recovering so quickly." Feng Bujue thought to himself. Looks like the players who are transported here have a huge advantage after your injuries are healed. Several seconds later, strategist Zhuge opened his mouth again. The innate experts of the 3 religions will lead everyone to launch an attack on Guji City. Currently, Yuan Luji has been trapped by Tsang at the arena. Sima, he added, "We can't miss this opportunity. We have to use this opening to attack Guji City and destroy the seal in the city. This way, the order of time and space will be restored, and all the worlds will return to their original positions." At this moment, the annoying Feng Bujue interrupted again. "There are 3 things. I don't quite understand." Zhuge Liang chuckled. He could already tell that it was not that this kid did not understand. In fact, he understood better than anyone else, which was why he asked this question. Feng Bujua's actions could be described with a very appropriate word, prying, or in the northern language, shill. The question was fake. In reality, it was to help Zhuge Liang and the others explain the situation more logically. All right, I know what you want to ask. Kong Ming waved his feather fan and replied with a smile. Firstly, under the situation where Yuan Lu Ji is alive, the demon army can be resurrected endlessly in Guji City. This is indeed a very tricky problem. That's why we deliberately set aside time to heal everyone's injuries. I believe that with everyone's combat power, as long as you recover from your injuries, you will definitely be able to take down Guji City without Yuan Lu Ji. Oh. Feng Bujua listened and nodded pretentiously. The second thing you want to ask. Then, Sima Yi looked at Brother Zhu and waved his black feather fan. Is about whether the seal in the city can be successfully broken, right? He liked to steal Brother Kongming's lines, as if to prove that he was smarter than Brother Kongming. You don't have to worry about that. We have planned such a large-scale operation. How could we neglect the most crucial part? Oh, that sounds very confident. When Brother Zhu heard that, he could already confirm in his heart that there was a spy among these people in Ancient Town. Whether it was Kongming's sentence, even without him leading the way, I have a way to attack Guji City, or Sima Yi's words. They all revealed this information. As for the third thing, Sima Yi finished his sentence, and Marquis Lonely continued. Forgive me for being blunt. I don't know how long Song can trap Yuan Lu Ji, but Chief Xian has already realized that even if his soul is destroyed and his body is destroyed, he will complete his mission and do his best to stall Yuan Lu Ji for us. Then what are we waiting for? In the crowd, a man wearing a white sleeveless Taoist robe and a headband shouted, My injuries are not serious at all. It's enough to deal with Yuan Lu Ji's demon army. Let's hurry up and attack. Maybe if we move faster, Chief Xian can still be saved. That's right. I don't want to owe anyone a favor. Treating injuries and whatnot is simply superfluous. I don't think there's a need for some 3 innate to lead the way. I can attack Guji City alone. The few hundred people present were obviously not easy to deal with. In an instant, the crowd was in an uproar. Justice, dignity, confidence, arrogance. Everyone had their own beliefs and personalities. But at this moment, their voices were the same. After hearing that Song was willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good, they all felt that they were shouldering something. Only by attacking Guji City as soon as possible could they calm down. At this moment, a seductive laughter came from the sky. What followed was the rolling demonic tide that filled the sky. What? Impossible. Oh no, Zhuge Liang, Sima Yi, and Marquis Lonely all had serious expressions on their faces. A bunch of laughable ants. What are you scheming sneakily here? When Daji asked this question, the demonic aura had already descended on the valley and turned into tens of thousands of demon soldiers. Her seductive vixen appearance also appeared in front of everyone. Why don't you tell me? Chapter 847. Ayaya. Urahara Kisuk, who was standing far away, pushed up his hat. He looked at the demon army above the canyon and said with a bitter smile, Our plan seems to have been seen through. I can't believe you can still laugh. Even though he said that, Dragon Su also laughed. This time, we are really in a desperate situation, right? On the other side, Daji, who was standing above the canyon, waved her hand. Several seconds later, a demon general came forward and handed a head to her. There is something I want to return to you. As she said that, she casually tossed the head down the canyon. Seeing this, Kongming waved his feather fan. A visible wind appeared in the air and blew the head to him. Then he grabbed the head with one arm and looked at its appearance. As expected, the owner of this head was the spy who had been working with them from the inside. Sending Keiji as a spy does seem like your style. At this moment, Daji continued. No matter if it is someone who looks trustworthy or someone who looks untrustworthy, none of them are suitable for this job. Only someone like Keiji, who does whatever he wants and is unpredictable, is the hardest to see through. Zhuge Liang didn't say anything. He knew that Daji was showing off. Sima, he didn't say anything either. He was thinking about how to salvage the situation. Marquis GMO coughed silently. At the same time, he was silently mourning for Tsong. Anyone with a bit of intelligence who was present could tell that the situation in front of them was really terrible. According to the original plan, the superdimensional army, let's call them that for now, should suddenly charge to the entrance of Guji City when they were at full strength. Then, with the help of Meta Keiji, brother undercover, they would break into the city and block the resurrection point of the demon army. Then, they would split into a small group and follow Keiji to break the seal. However, the actual development was, in this operation, the most important guide had been killed, and they themselves were blocked by the demon army at the bottom of the canyon. Even if they could use their strength to fight their way out, but fighting the devil army here was different from fighting in Guji City. Because LVG could resurrect infinitely, if the battle line was stretched out, the superdimensional army would be worn down and scattered along the way. When they arrived at Guji City, it was hard to say how many people would be left. What the demon army needed to do next was to delay and wear down the demon army. Even if the superdimensional army didn't die, once LVG returned to the city, everything would be over. Huff, huff, huff. Daji looked at the expressions of the people in the canyon and chuckled triumphantly. I believe you all understand. Your conspiracy has been nipped in the bud. How about this? I will give you one more chance. She paused, and her expression turned serious. Among you, who wants to join Lord LVG? This is your last chance. As long as you come over here, I will spare your lives. A chance? When Feng Bujia heard that, he was quite tempted. Since the start of the scenario, I have not had any direct conflict with LVG's people, and LVG has heard of my name before. Furthermore, from the looks of it, they have the upper hand. Even though he was tempted, Brother Ju did not jump over in a hurry. At the end of the day, he was still a calm and careful person. He still had some concerns. First, Daji's words could not be trusted completely. This fox demon was not a kind person. She might go back on her words and kill the surrendered generals. Second, based on Brother Ju's understanding of the three universes, Wushuang, Thunderbolt, and Dragon Ball, the weakest boss of the three camps was LVG. Based on common sense, Qi Tiandi and Frisia's power should be higher than LVG's. In this day and age, one was not afraid of doing the wrong thing, but one was afraid of standing on the wrong side. One could not join the wrong camp because of temporary situation. What's wrong? No one is coming out? Daji waited for about 30 seconds and realized that no one was paying any attention to her. Fine. Then you. Her face twisted. You will be killed. When she said the last half of the sentence, the soft girlish voice had turned into a queen's voice. Hua. Under Daji's command, the tens of thousands of demon soldiers and demon generals started to clamor. Everyone now, the things have come to this. Zhuge Liang sighed and said, We can only fight to the death, cough, cough. Lonely Marquis added, Even though it is extremely dangerous, the original plan cannot be changed. Everyone, please charge with all your strength and gather at the entrance of Guji City again. Lonely Marquis knew that there might not be a second martial arts competition like this, and there would definitely not be a second champion of the six strings. Therefore, today's opportunity could not be replicated. Even if he had to bite the bullet, he had to do it. Therefore, the superdimensional army started to cheer as well. Their fighting spirits soared, and burning murderous intent shot out from the bottom of the canyon and into the sky. Just as the battle was about to begin and the rain of blood was about to fall, time seemed to have stopped. In the sky, the clouds moved slightly. A pulse of energy spread out from the clouds above the canyon. At this moment, the two armies above and below the canyon felt a horrifying pressure at the same time. They weren't the only ones. Every sentient life form in the alternate dimension felt it. On the martial arts stage, Yuan Lu Ji, who was trapped in the profound Dipper Sword formation, turned his head and looked towards the north. What is that? His face showed a serious expression for the first time. Although the four people in the formation did not stop, They could not help but be distracted and anxious. It's him. Cold sweat appeared on Feng Zhihen's palm. Is this God? Yuan Wu Tsang thought. What an exaggerated power. In comparison, God General Luo is not even worth mentioning. He Zi was shocked. As for Tsang, he did not even want to think about the name of that person. Beep, 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 bang. Motherf asterisk her. Frisia, who was at the edge of the unparalleled plains, said something similar in alien language. He shook his head and threw away the remains of the combat ability detector that was stuck to his face. Humph. The new model with an upper limit of 8 digits actually exploded. Hearing this, the members of the Jinyu Special Forces who were standing around and covering their faces, their detectors had also exploded, all showed a shocked expression. Is it really a machine malfunction? Jinyu was so scared that his face turned purple, although it was originally purple. Chui, Dodoria, and Sapo's communication was interrupted, and their combat ability disappeared. Should be because of this. Oomph! Ping Qing Sheng, who was watching coldly from the side, coldly snorted. Saying such words, isn't it too naive? Jinyu turned around and glared at Ping Qing Sheng. What do you mean? He's right. Even in this situation, Frisia was still very calm and said with a smile, this kind of self-deceiving words is meaningless. He paused for half a second and looked at Jinyu. Jinyu, you take the special forces and go to the north to explore the situation. He then looked at Ping Qing Sheng. Ping sang, you come with me to the martial arts stage. It's time to meet that demon king. Back to the canyon in the north of unparalleled plains. What's going on? Daji looked up at the sky, and an unconcealable fear was revealed in her eyes. What is? Urahara Kisuk pressed down on his hat with his hand, and his eyes under the shadow revealed a solemn expression. Could this be? Zhuge Liang muttered, the legendary, it can't be wrong. Sima Yi turned to him and said, haha, Kongming, I didn't expect that the two of us would die here together. Ding, ding. All of a sudden, a BGM with layers of vocal choruses as the main accompaniment, with an imposing and forceful aura, began to play. When he heard the music, Feng Bujua knew who it was. There was only one person in the world who used God of Destruction as an imposing song. Chi Chi Chi. In the blink of an eye, 3 figures leaped up the canyon and came to the opposite side of LV Jijun. Buddha Sword Parting, Buddha, Shulu Dragon Mansion, Confucianism, and Sword Son of Immortals, Taoism. The 3 innates walked the same path through wind and rain, advancing and retreating together. They had all sensed the true face of the power in the sky, so they had all stood at the front line to face the god. The 2 of you, I didn't expect that we would see such a scene again in our lifetime. Shulu Dragon Mansion looked at the sky and muttered, this time, I'm afraid it will be more dangerous than the last time. Sword Son of Immortals continued, how strong is the real body of the god? Buddha Sword looked solemn, but there was a trace of despair in his voice. What are you talking about? Daji, who was standing on the opposite side of the canyon, heard their conversation and asked anxiously, what is up there? You will see it soon. Shulu Dragon Mansion snorted coldly in response. Before his voice died away, there was a roar that tore through the clouds. Then, a beam of light broke through the sky and landed on Wushuang Plain. A black figure suddenly floated down from the beam of light. At this moment, the earth, sky, time, and space all began to tremble. The person in the beam of light didn't speak. He just looked down at everything under his feet with an indifferent gaze. Even so, a large number of demon soldiers and far away, Lu Ji's army were pressed to the ground by the invisible pressure and couldn't move. Are you kidding me? Xiaodan looked at the sky with cold sweat running down his back. What is this pressure? I'm just standing here without moving, and my stamina points are decreasing? That's too ridiculous. Even Rainey couldn't help but comment like that. Feng Bujue, on the other hand, let out a long sigh of relief. Luckily, I'm smart. I didn't jump to faraway Lu Ji's side. It's only been less than half a minute, and something even more powerful has come. Boom! A moment later, The man in the beam of light finally arrived at Wushuang Plain. Soldiers rose in Wushuang Plain. The heroes gathered, and the emperor came. Sabers and halberds appeared to vanquish demons. The astral array formed a plan to seize the city. Qi Tiandi finally arrived. The moment he touched the ground with the tip of his foot, the entire alternate dimension tilted. An unrivaled force swept out like a tsunami and spread out in all directions. The three innate masters were prepared. The Buddhist archive, the purple dragon shadow, and the golden sword combined to defend the entrance of the gorge and block the godly force. The three of them tried their best to defend against this wave of impact so that the people at the bottom of the gorge weren't affected. However, faraway Lu Ji's side was in trouble. Except for Daji and a few demon generals who could block the impact with their demonic aura, the tens of thousands of demon soldiers behind them were crushed by the impact like paper. More than half of them were killed or injured. The mortal world is dirty again. The first line that Qi Tiandi said after he stood still was the famous line that no one could match. The vast power didn't belong to the mortal world. The god of destruction came to the super-elemental alternate world. He wore a black luxurious robe, had long black hair, and had a devilish face. Qi Tiandi didn't have the domineering aura of a king, the immortal aura of a Taoist, the chivalrous aura of a hero, the humility of a Confucian, or the holiness of a Buddhist. It was because he didn't belong to any of these people. It was because he wasn't a human. The domineering aura of a god didn't need to be revealed. It existed in the hearts of those who were shocked. A god didn't need to ask for Tao, and chivalry was nothing. A god didn't need to be humble to humans. His wisdom wasn't something that humans could understand. A god was naturally holy, even though he brought destruction to humans. Most of the people who had survived the impact looked at President Qi in shock. Their minds were in a half-blank state. Even the three innate masters who had faced Qi Tiandi in the bitter territory couldn't help but tremble this time. Back then, Qi Tiandi who came to the bitter territory was only a consciousness. When his consciousness returned to the sixth heavens realm, the physical body that he occupied, which was the strengthened version of the saint demon vital embryo, only bore less than half of his power. It was this less than half of his power that made him invincible in the world. This guy, Daji, who had witnessed Qi Tiandi's power for the first time, turned pale while her body trembled violently. She wanted to run, but she couldn't even take a step forward. A horrifying thought appeared in her mind for the first time in her life. Master Yuan Lu Ji might lose. Kisuk Urahara. Qi Tiandi called out a person's name for the second time. Qi Tiandi rarely remembered other people's names. The people who could be remembered by him were those who didn't die after taking one of his attacks. There weren't many people who met this condition. But now, he called out Urahara's name, which made Kisuk Urahara feel flattered. Oh, Pu Yuan looked up at Qi Tiandi from the bottom of the valley as he forced a hollow laugh. Even he was a bit surprised that he could still laugh in such a situation. What do you want from me? Give me the Hogyoku. Qi Tiandi went straight to the point and stated his demand. Hearing his words, Urahara, Zhuge Liang, Marquis Jumo, Shalu Longsu, Feng Bujue, and the others who knew about the effect of the Hogyoku changed their expressions. Urahara, thought for a few seconds and laughed bitterly. His hand moved to the wooden cane at his waist unconsciously. His Zanpakuto was hidden in the cane. May I ask, what do you want to do with that thing? You already know the answer. There's no need to ask, Qi Tiandi replied in a deep voice. You're right. Urahara laughed while he drew out the saber from the cane and released all his spiritual pressure. Then, I only have two things to tell you. He paused for a moment. The first thing, I refuse. His eyes turned cold. The second thing, I won't give it to you even if I die. Ugh. Qi Tiandi looked at him deeply. Okay, I'll grant your wish. Then, Qi Tiandi waved one hand, and a godly technique appeared. Godly flame. Chapter 848. Hello everyone. It's time for the monthly announcement again. It feels like when I close my eyes and open them again, a month has passed just like that. When I turn my head back, I realize a year has passed just like that. Now, allow me to propose a couplet from March. The first line, the snow melts, and winter is coming to an end. The second line, spring is coming. The horizontal line, mating season. Okay, you can stop clapping now. You can put down your middle finger and stop smiling at the screen. The people next to you will think you're crazy. As the saying goes, until the end of the month, it's still the new year. Here, I wish everyone a happy new year and hope in the next few days, your mood won't be too bad. Why do I say that? Everyone should be able to see that I am a rather honest person. When this announcement is made, I believe everyone. Those who are supposed to be at work have already gone to work, and those who are supposed to be at school have already started. In this cold weather, returning to the normal pace of life is quite a painful thing. So I sincerely wish everyone a good adjustment to their physical and mental states. I won't force you to be happy, just don't feel too bad. We all have to understand that without the pain of being trampled by life day after day, you will not be able to set off the bliss of being able to catch a breath while being trampled by life. It feels like the content of the monthly announcement is getting more and more off track. All right, back to the main topic. As you can see, Super Dimension combat is currently in progress. The 3 bosses have all appeared, and the plot is about to enter its climax. After the scenario ends, we won't immediately enter the plot of tournament for the best S2, because the plot of tournament for the best is very long. So there will be other scenarios in between the practice mode and the preliminaries. For the upcoming plot, the current plan is to have Buju enter the free exploration mode again. As for what will happen there, I temporarily have no idea. In any case, please wait and see. P.S. Speaking of which, recently, I feel like my martial arts writing is getting better and better. Is that an illusion? P.S. The comic that everyone is waiting for probably won't be released until the next issue. To be honest, I'm looking forward to it as well. Chapter 849. Cry Out. Hongji. At this moment, Urahara awakened his Zanpakuto and immediately used Blood Cloud Shield to block the godly attack. Urahara Kisuk was a captain-level character, set in the Bleach world, and his spiritual pressure was unfathomable. In terms of foundation, he was at least an innate level even in the Lightning world. However, the power that looked down on the world and the power of a demon god wasn't something that could be blocked by one person. Chi Tiandi's flame of God in his complete form was already at the pinnacle of heaven. If Urahara was the only one who faced the attack, then everyone in the canyon would be finished. The heroes in the valley all understood this. Therefore, at this moment, they all displayed their abilities and used powerful long-range attacks to block the godly attack that could destroy the world. As for the 3 Xintian experts standing above the canyon, they raised their vital essence again and used the 3 swords attack for the second time, attacking the descending flame of God from the side. Boom! The energy collided in midair and exploded like a small nuclear bomb. Shockwaves burst out and spread out in all directions, causing waves of turbulent energy to surge in the unparalleled plains. Finally, everyone managed to block Chi Tiandi's attack with their combined strength, and it was a draw. Other than some people who were knocked down by the shockwaves, most of them were still standing steadily. Those who don't have long-range attacks, return to the martial arts stage as fast as you can. The rest of you, gather in the valley and follow closely behind. Fight as you retreat. While everyone was still in a state of shock, a few loud shouts suddenly entered their ears. The person who shouted that was none other than Bujua. That's right. Let's go. Hearing this, Sima, he was the first to react and said, "Those who reach the martial arts stage first, tell the Chief Xian and the others to stop fighting. Think of a way to lure Yuan Luzi to us." Cough, cough, cough. Marquis Lonely coughed and said, "The rest of you, hold Chi Tianyi back while heading toward the martial arts stage." Hearing this, most of the people also understood. Brother Ju's idea was actually very easy to understand. With this kind of disparity, it was impossible for them to beat him, so it was better to think of a way to let Yuan Luji deal with him. Restrain me? At this moment, Chi Tiandi's voice came from above again. "With just you two? Mr. Urahara, listen to me." Feng Bujue ignored Mr. Chi's threat and rushed to Urahara's side. "Next, you will become the key to our survival." He paused for half a second and then continued in a deep voice. "If I'm not wrong, Chi Tiandi held back a bit of his power in that god's flame. He must have calculated that. He wanted to keep you alive. Save some strength." Urahara didn't know who the man in front of him was, but he was really shocked by Brother Ju's words. "You're the only one who knows the whereabouts of the Hogyoku. Chi Tiandi really wants the Hogyoku. Of course, he doesn't have the habit. So, he's holding back as much as possible, but it's okay if he kills you." Feng Bujue continued. "Therefore, as long as you're in his attack range, he won't use his full strength. And we can take advantage of this and block his attack like just now. I say, you guys should just run away. After all, he wants to kill me." Urahara replied. "No," Feng Bujue said, "you can't die. You're the only bait we know that can lure Chi Tiandi into action. The sooner Chi Tiandi meets Yuan Luji, the better it will be for us." Urahara laughed dryly and couldn't help but complain. "Hey, you actually said lure in front of me." Brother Ju interrupted him again. "Anyway, please run with everyone to the martial arts arena. The terrain here is too unfavorable. We can't stay here any longer." While they were talking, Zhuge Liang, Sima Yi, and Marquis Jima had organized the people at the bottom of the valley and quickly moved to the top of the valley. At this moment, the dead and injured people who had been crushed by Chi Tiandi's godly power and lost their ability to move had been blown away by the airwave. Daji and the remaining surviving demon generals had also escaped when the godly flame appeared. Therefore, the members of the superdimensional army could climb to the plain on the south side of the valley with ease. As for how they would go up, I won't go into detail here. Anyway, they would fly, jump, and climb up in their own ways. In this alternate dimension, if you couldn't even climb up a valley that was a few hundred meters high, you shouldn't come out. You might as well be a soldier in the demon army. Want to run? Chi Tiandi's eyes moved slightly as he said coldly. As he spoke, he flipped his hand and released his godly power. In the next second, the sky behind him began to collapse. What's he doing? Some people who didn't understand couldn't help but ask. He's destroying the boundary of this alternate dimension. Some people who understood the situation answered this question. Faced with this answer, the people who asked the question naturally fell silent. Mortals, no matter where you run, you can't escape destruction, Chi Tiandi said as he raised his other hand. Those who were familiar with thunderbolts knew that once Chi Tiandi raised his hand, it meant that he was going to give bento. Godly mist. With a flip of his hand, the godly technique appeared again. *T. It's coming again. Someone in the crowd shouted. This time, the three sex hooligans on the other side of the valley couldn't do anything. Optimistically, if this technique landed, the superdimensional army's casualties would be in the double digits. TSK. There's nothing we can do. Jielu, who was running at the back of the crowd, spat and turned around. Then, he yelled, "Pure glazed Bodhisattva, please help me." Oh, hearing this, the Bodhisattva immediately understood. He instantly came behind Jielu and used the power of the purifying Lotus Saint technique to protect Jielu with the glazed mystic technique. In a short period of time, Jielu's demon energy increased rapidly. Heart origin that swims between eternity and infinity, all the pale flames that exist here. Please summon the power sleeping in the depths of my soul. From infinity to here, unleash the punishment. Emperor Jielugong finished chanting the incantation with his fastest speed and used his strongest move, Collapse Spirit Rend. The most powerful attack type, Fairy Magic. Its power is comparable to Dragon Break Slash. Boom! Blazing white light burst out with a boom and a crack. The battle between Godly Mist and Spirit Fisher had begun. Fairy Magic could be divided into 5 types: Wind, Fire, Earth, Water, and Spirit. The most powerful technique, Spirit Fisher, belonged to the Spirit element. In a world of slayers, The power of a spell was closely related to the user's demon energy. Spirit Fissure was a spell that relied heavily on the spellcaster's ability. Emperor Jerrigan was a synthetic human, so he had an innate advantage over ordinary people, although the transformation of his body was not voluntary. Moreover, he was one of the best magic swordsmen. Back in the day, he used Ragged Magus' instant strike gun to increase the power of Spirit Fissure. He was able to force the Demon King of Otherworld, Dark Star, to retreat. Now, with the enhancement of pure, glazed Bodhisattva's Buddhist holy power, the power of Spirit Fissure was even greater than before. However, he wasn't facing Dark Star now. He was facing Qi Tiandi. Qi Tiandi had used about 50% of his power. He didn't expect his opponent to block it. He immediately said a famous line. Not bad. Before he finished speaking, he had already stopped destroying the space behind him and poured his remaining strength into the hand that was casting the technique. In less than 1 second, the balance of power was broken. The despair-inducing godly power pressed down and engulfed the enhanced version of Spirit Fissure. Then, the godly power chased after the superdimensional army. Fortunately, the 3 innate realm masters arrived in time. Jiufan Annihilation, Daoji Mystic Void, Heavenly Wind doesn't fall to dust. The top ultimate techniques of the 3 factions, Buddhism and Sword Parting, Sword Son of Immortals, and Sparse Dragon Mansion, appear at the same time. The 3 Qis of Confucianism, Taoism, and Holiness connected, and the yin and yang of heaven and earth transformed into nothingness. You 3 again, Qi Tiandi said in a deep voice. At this moment, he sneered and said, Fine, I'll show you the difference between the true form of a god and the spirit carried by the saint demon vital embryo. Then, Qi Tiandi crossed his hands and used wind and thunder dual styles. Instantly, thunderbolts covered the surroundings, and wild mist spread in all directions. At the same moment, Chapter 850. It's now. Sword Sun yelled, and Dragon Constellation and Buddha Sword understood his meaning. The 3 innate masters raised their weapons and activated their vital essence. Sky is the sun. The golden sword appeared with the abstruse light of Taoism. Earth is the moon. The purple dragon roared to the sky with the supreme light of Confucianism. Man is the star. The Buddhist archives opened again with the clear saint light of Buddhism. The 3 top techniques of the 3 sects were used at the same time, and 3 lights appeared at the same time. They reflected the changes of wind and thunder and guided the light of the Pure Land. The 3 people flew up into the sky at the same time, and 3 illusions of the sun, the moon, and the star appeared behind them. The technique of sky opening, the technique of aurora, and the godly light appeared in reverse, and the 3 saint lights shone on Qi Tiandi at the same time. Back then, in the final battle between Qi Tiandi and the 3 innate masters in the Pan-Yin Godly Palace, his true form was revealed by this technique. Before Qi Tiandi entered the Devil Path, he had a pure white and holy appearance and was the number 1 martial god in the Heaven Realm. Although it only lasted for a few seconds, this move was a move that made even gods feel pain in the truest sense of the word. Of course, the activation condition of this technique was extremely harsh. It required 3 masters of the 3 sects who had perfect teamwork to expel the 5 filthy, evil aura with the help of the godly pillar's holy chi. At least in the original universe of Thunderbolt, the 3 innate masters couldn't use it, temporarily, anymore. However, in this alternate space, they could still use it. Seeing this technique, Qi Tiandi sneered, what a great sky-pole saint light. After saying that, he actually stopped his actions. What? Ugh, this. Even the 3 innate masters who launched the technique froze. At this moment, Qi Tiandi stopped the wind and thunder dual techniques that he had activated. He put down his hands and stood there coldly. Mortals don't know the immensity of heaven and earth, Qi Tiandi commented calmly and allowed the saint light to hit him. Just like when he was in the bitter realm, Chi Tiandi wouldn't dodge the attacks of the mortals. Even though he was only a godly consciousness attached to the saint demon vital embryo, he still took all the attacks head-on and pushed them back with godly power that was stronger than his opponents. Boom! The saint light penetrated his body, and his godly face smiled. This time, the Skypole saint light didn't cause any damage to Chi Tiandi, and the godly punishment technique was useless. The three of you looked carefully. Chi Tiandi spread his hands and said slowly, "This is my body, not some saint demon vital embryo." As soon as he finished speaking, the three Khanate cultivators' expressions froze. They all understood what Chi Tiandi meant. I'm using my own body now, and my protective energy shield is flawless. The body he used in the Bitter Realm had a weakness, which was why he couldn't destroy the Divine Land in the end. Besides, it's at least 3 times stronger than the strengthened version of the Saint Demon Vital Embryo. In addition, I have the shameless move of Reverse Demon Source. No matter what you do or how you fight, it's nothing to me. Today, I want you to know. Several seconds later, Chi Tiandi waved his hand again. The consequences of disobeying God. At the same time, on the training platform, the Xiangang Sword Wonder trapped the snake demon. Yuan Luji exchanged a few blows with the 4 people in the array and Bell Ghost, who was guarding the array. His eyes gradually lit up with joy. Experts, your strength is worthy of praise. But in the next second, he changed the topic. I'll be more serious to respond to your hard work. Then, Yuan Luji brandished Seamless and waved his arm, releasing purple demonic lightning bolts from his fingertips, which spread out in a fan shape. Return to nothingness. Yuan Muzang yelled and went up to counter the attack. Yuan Muzang's return to nothingness was almost perfect in its setting. The principle was to use one's own foundation as the limit. The moment he received the opponent's attack, he would empty his whole body to analyze the opponent's strength and get rid of it. No matter if it was an invisible force or a tangible object, he could turn it into nothingness with a method of mutual promotion and suppression. Theoretically speaking, as long as it wasn't someone whose foundation was much higher than his, for example, Chi Tiandi, he would be able to return whatever was thrown at him, even if it was a missile from the high-tech universe. However, Yuan Luji wasn't easy to deal with. His foundation was much higher than Yuan Muzang's, and Yuan Muzang couldn't block Yuan Luji's direct attack by himself. At this moment, the function of the array eye was highlighted. Blackie's figure flashed, and he was already behind Yuan Muzang. He pressed his right hand on Yuan Muzang's back, and a mighty force was instilled, strengthening the former's return to nothingness several times, and resisting Yuan Luji's demonic lightning bolts. Attack, retreat, and defend. Good job. Yuan Luji was also applauding Blackie in his heart, but he didn't show any mercy. In the blink of an eye, Yuan Luji changed his move again. His body moved horizontally, and he spun horizontally with Seamless like a sickle weasel. Heaven's limit! In less than half a second, Song had already made his move. The mysterious power shook the snake demon's power, stopping Yuan Luji's advance. The moment Yuan Luji slowed down, Wind Mark's counterattack came. Sword follows the wind. The sword moved quickly, leaving afterimages behind. Wind Mark's white shadow swept toward Yuan Luji. In the blink of an eye, the 2 figures had crossed each other. However, this attack, like the previous several swords, still didn't cause any effective damage to Yuan Luji. The blue snake scale armor on the Demon King was extremely hard. No matter what kind of attack it was, it couldn't leave any mark on it. In the same second, Yin and Yang of Heaven and Earth, 7 mysteries, returned to origin. Song quickly chanted, and mysterious power suddenly arrived. Oomph! Yuan Luji reacted instantly, releasing his demonic aura. You want to use the 7 stars echo array to separate my soul. The Demon King opened his mouth, and then he urged his strange power again, releasing a circle of dense karmic fireballs in all directions. Here's my chance, Song suddenly shouted, and the spell flashed. It turned out that he was just making a feint. Song knew that Yuan Lu Ji could tell what kind of spell he was using, so he deliberately chanted those words. In fact, Song's real purpose was to let Yuan Lu Ji launch a fast, powerful, and large-scale attack without hesitation. In that case, there would be a very short gap in the Demon King's breathing. Let me do it. The person who heard Song's voice and responded immediately was Ling Gui. In terms of individual combat ability, Ling Gui was the closest to Yuan Lu Ji among all the people on the stage. He had been fighting barehanded for so long without using any energy waves. His combat ability was definitely not comparable to Sapo's. In the blink of an eye, Ling Gui darted through the gap between the fireballs and arrived in front of Yuan Lu Ji at an incredible speed. He swung his fist toward Yuan Lu Ji's face. You're right. Unexpectedly, Yuan Lu Ji sneered. This is my chance. Chapter 851. Smack. In the next second, Ling Gui's expression changed. Yuan Lu Ji actually used one hand to catch his fist. Ling Gui, Yuan Lu Ji's demonic voice sounded. You must be confused. As he spoke, he crushed Uncle Ling Gui's hand and kicked the latter's chest, sending him flying. The four people in the array were shocked, and they immediately surrounded Yuan Lu Ji to protect the array. However, Yuan Lu Ji raised his head and roared. Layers of demonic aura shot out, and an invisible force forced the four people out of the range of the arena. The mystic gang sword array was broken instantly. That's right. Yuan Lu Ji was as relaxed as ever after he finished what he had just said. Your maximum combat strength has indeed exceeded my strength in my normal state, but he waved seamless and swept his gaze across the heroes below the arena. You don't know that my so-called normal state, which is the state I was in when I was fighting you, is actually a stable state that I achieved by suppressing my true strength to the extreme. As he spoke, Ling Gui fell from the sky. At this moment, a figure jumped out at high speed and caught Ling Gui, who had lost consciousness. Miss, thank you for your help. After catching the uncle, Swordmaster 12 Regrets carried him toward Huajian. They came straight for me. Huajian thought to himself, since when did I become your medic? Although she thought about it, she didn't refuse to heal the wounded. After all, this situation was what she wanted to see. At this moment, other than the 5 masters who had surrounded Yuan Lu Ji, the other superdimensional heroes all stood around Huajian to protect her. It seemed that they all understood how important it was to protect the healer when fighting a boss. This situation made it difficult for 7 Kills, who was also a player, to attack Huajian. If he rushed to attack Huajian, the group of monsters around her would definitely tear him apart. On the arena, Yuan Lu Ji continued, I don't appear in this form, but move in my complete form. This space will become extremely unstable. As he spoke, he pointed to the north. It's just like the influence of that person over there. There's actually such a thing. Despair appeared on Song's face. He suddenly realized his previous plan was simply a joke. As long as Yuan Lu Ji was willing, he could break out of the formation at any moment and return to Ancient Wisdom City. Well, the game ends here. Thanks to you, I have done a good preparation. Yuan Lu Ji continued, Frisia will be here soon. He turned around and looked into the distance. You guys go to the north? I think your companions need your help. Also, if you want to live, stay away from this martial arts stage. What? Song Jing asked. You want us to leave? Of course, I won't kill you. Yuan Lu Ji replied indifferently. Powerhouses carry the fear and unwillingness of today and continue to cultivate. No matter when, this king will gladly accept your challenge. He stood upright and unafraid, smiling as he said, This king has always been looking forward to the day when someone can defeat me. Meanwhile, on the suspension bridge at the main entrance of Ancient Wisdom City, the person who was running toward Frisia's spaceship was Dongjua. Earlier, when Sabo was showing off on the martial arts stage, Grand Tutor Dong was watching the battle calmly from the sidelines. But as soon as Zabo died, he quickly shrunk his neck and quietly ran away. Dongjua also understood that he had become a surrendering general to Yuan Luji and then betrayed Yuan Luji and went to Frisia's side. Therefore, whether it was the demon king who was about to descend or the heroes present, they were all enemies of him. If he stayed here, he would be killed in minutes. Since Dongjua couldn't fly and didn't ride a horse today, his legs were short, and he had to deal with the suppression of Yuan Luji and the earthquake-like reactions caused by Qi Tiandi's arrival. Dongjua stumbled all the way and finally reached the suspension bridge after running for a long time. At this moment, Frisia and Ping Qingsheng had also arrived. Dongjua saw Frisia's figure from afar and was delighted. Ha! Ha ha! He laughed. King Frisia, you're finally here. Oh, it's Mr. Dongjua. Frisia came to a stop in front of Dongjua. Can you tell me what happened just now? Sabo was killed. Dongjua stopped and said while panting. Take your time. Don't rush, Frisia said. Frisia wasn't surprised by Sabo's death. He had expected this when Sabo's combat ability detector lost its signal. Of course, he didn't know how Sabo was killed because there were too many combatants on the martial arts stage. The detector couldn't detect what happened from afar. While Dongjua was explaining the situation to Frisia and Ping Qingsheng on the wasteland north of Matchless Plains, the superdimensional army's warriors who were better at close combat were currently moving towards the arena at high speed. They had put some distance between them and Urahara Kisuk's group and caught up with Lu Bu, who left the canyon first. Lu Bu wasn't as fast as them, but he didn't run as fast as these people. Besides, a few minutes ago, Lu Bu, who didn't know what was going on, stopped for a while on the road due to the pressure from Qi Tiandi's arrival. This was one of the reasons why they caught up with him. What the hell is going on? Lu Bu saw those people running in front of him. He couldn't help but feel suspicious, but he didn't open his mouth to ask. But right at this moment, another group of uninvited guests suddenly arrived. There were also characters who came with their own background music. All of a sudden, rhythmic music began to play in the area, accompanied by the singing of Special Forces, Special Forces, Special Forces, Special Forces. Then, 5 figures with explosive auras descended from the sky and blocked everyone's path. Lycum, a tall and strong man with an orange-red pineapple hairstyle, his appearance was very close to that of an earthling, shouted while waving his hands. Bart, a dark blue humanoid giant who was even taller than Rikum, waved his hands in the other direction and said, Guys! A short man with a red body and long white hair knelt on one knee and raised his hands in the shape of a bird's wings. Gudu, a very short, fat, green-skinned man with 4 eyes on his face, shouted with the same posture as guys. Jinyu, finally, a muscular man with a medium build and light purple body, with 2 straight horns on both sides of his head, shouted through his crotch with a serious expression. After they shouted their names in 5 embarrassing postures, they shouted together. Everyone, line up. Before they finished speaking, they actually changed their formation, Jinyu Force. Let's go. Jinyu and the other 4 took a full 30 seconds to put on what they thought was a domineering and cool posture, but in fact, it made people unable to look straight at them. During this time, many people who ran fast had already passed by them. Damn it, you dare to ignore us. Seeing that no one paid attention to them, the 5 people of the Special Forces flew up and circled around at high speed, once again blocking in front of those passers-by. Hey, all of you stop. These guys are Frisia's subordinates. Someone in the crowd quickly recognized their identity from their battle armor. After you said that, the person next to him quickly said, looking at their appearance and battle armor, they should be in the same group as that Sapo from before. Actually, whether they came from the same universe or not was indeed quite easy to distinguish. After all, their styles were different. Oh, you know Sapo? Jinyu heard the other party's words and immediately asked, Where is he now? 3 seconds after he asked the question, no one answered him. People seemed to be waiting for something. 3 seconds later, a figure walked out and stood proudly, replying, Are you talking about that toad spirit? Humph, it was already killed by this uncle. Chapter 852. What? Among the special forces, Rikum, who had a relatively nasty personality, immediately looked at Lu Bu and asked with a frown. Just you. As he said that, he also raised his hand and pressed the combat power detector on the side of his head twice. Before they set off, they all went to the spaceship to get a new detector and put it on, and turned off the automatic search mode, so as to avoid the detector from exploding due to a target at a very long distance. Beep, beep, beep. Lu Bu's combat power was quickly displayed on Rikum's detector, and the latter laughed loudly. Ha ha. Combat power is only 15,000, and you dare to boast that you killed Sapo? Trash, if you know what's good for you. Quickly get out of my way. Lu Bu looked at Rikum with contempt. This uncle's goal is far from Lu Ji, and I don't want to waste time on you bunch of trash. What did you say? Rikum heard this and glared at Lu Bu. Are you looking for death? Bastard. Wait, Rikum. At this time, Jinyu waved his hand and interrupted Rikum. From his appearance, he seems to be serious. He paused and reminded. Don't be too careless. You must know that the combat power of these guys is not necessarily fixed. Having said that, Jinyu's face did not have the slightest fear of Lu Bu, and his expression was still very confident. Oh, is that so? Rikum clenched his fist and hammered the palm of his other hand. That's just right. Let me test his strength. Lu Bu and the others, you guys go first. At this moment, two figures suddenly came forward and stood between the Jinyu force and the crowd. One of them said, "Leave these 5 guys to us to deal with." As soon as this statement came out, everyone's eyes naturally focused on those 2 people. These 2 people were both strong and ferocious-looking people. The one who spoke earlier was none other than Luca Bernstein. As for the man who came out with him, his face was like a ghost, his eyes were red, his body was like an arhut, his muscles were tight. His red hair was shaped like a red lotus, and there was a braid on the top of his head. He was wearing a dark blue karate uniform, the sleeves of which had been torn off, and the corners were tattered. He wore a string of large prayer beads around his neck, a thick hemp rope around his waist, and a hemp rope around his fists. He didn't even have a pair of shoes on his feet. This man was called Grand Ghost. He was known as the Demon God Slaughtering Fist, also known as the Fist of Extreme Fist. He was the successor of the assassination fist fighting style. He possessed the tyrannical wave of killing intent and had an almost unprincipled and crazy pursuit of the limit of martial arts. That's rare. Lu Bu looked at the 2 of them and revealed a strange smile. Then he looked at the 5 people from the Special Forces. Oh well, I'll leave it to you guys. After saying this, he put away his halberd, bypassed the 5 people from the Special Forces, and ran forward. Wait, who allowed you? Rikum naturally wouldn't let Lu Bu go just because those 2 inexplicable guys said something. He wanted to chase after him, but at this moment, boom, a purple aura whizzed over. It was as fast as the wind and as powerful as a landslide. Rikum's attention was focused on Lu Bu. With a moment of distraction, he was hit in the back by this attack. Go. After being hit, Rikum groaned in pain, staggered, almost fell. What? As he muttered, he looked back at the direction where the aura came from. The battle power detector showed that Grand Ghost battle power was only 13,000, which was not as high as Lu Bu's. But that air-slashing, oscillating fist just now had slightly injured Rikum, the number 2 person of the Jinyu force who had a battle power of around 50,000. This made Rikum puzzled. Oh. Seeing this, Jinyu's expression slightly changed, but he was still calm. So that's how it is. All of you are the type whose battle power can be changed. No wonder Sapo was killed. He muttered thoughtfully. Then, he snorted coldly and said to Rikum, Rikum, let them beat the butt. Captain. Rikum seemed to be unwilling to give up. So, Jinyu glared at him again. Rikum was frightened by this look. No matter what, Jinyu was also a man with 120,000 battle power, and his battle power was also variable. Therefore, everyone in the Dragon Ball universe, when the Jinyu Force first appeared, including himself, thought that he was the 2nd strongest warrior in the universe, second only to Frieza. In the Special Forces, Jinyu was undoubtedly a very prestigious existence. Oh, okay. Rikam resentfully looked at Lu Bu's back. Since Captain said so, he helplessly turned around and gave up the idea of chasing after the other party. While they were talking, the other members of the superdimensional army also followed Lu Bu's footsteps and rushed past from both sides. In this regard, the 5 members of the special forces did not stop them. Jinyu's idea was, there was no need to impatiently kill everyone they met, because the order given by King Frisia was to investigate in the north and not kill everyone there. Taking a step back, what could these people do if they went to the martial arts stage? Anyway, if they met Frisia, they would also die. Beep, 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 Captain. A few seconds later, Jees, who was the most confident in the battle power detector in the special forces, pressed the instrument in front of him twice and said to Jinyu with disdain, "Are we really going to play with these 2 guys whose battle power added up to less than 30,000? Humph!" Jinyu coldly snorted and did not answer G's question. Instead, he looked at Lucad and Grand Ghost and said, "You two, I can see that you decided to stay and fight with your lives in order to let your companions pass. However, I still want to advise you forget it." He spread out his arms and said with a smile, "We have 5 people here. In terms of battle power, the sum of our side is almost 10 times that of the 2 of you. We don't need to fight to know the result." Unexpectedly, Jinyu did not seem to intend to fight with them, and instead chose to negotiate. "We also don't have any reason to fight." He raised his hand and pointed behind them. "How about this? As long as you tell me what happened over there, we will let you go." Humph, humph. Ha ha ha. After hearing Jinyu's words, Lucad and Grand Ghost unexpectedly laughed sinisterly at the same time. Seeing this, the smile on Jinyu's face disappeared, and he asked with slight anger, "What's so funny? You're thinking too much." Grand Ghost replied in a deep voice. Lucad laughed. "The reason why we stood out is only because we don't want to share the prey with others." What? The 5 members of the Special Forces had surprisingly the same reaction. "Che, too reckless trash. Death is at hand and still so arrogant." Rikam fiercely muttered. "Humph." Jees also said, "Really a waste of breath, this group of frogs at the bottom of a well. Running amok on their own planet, they think that they are invincible in the universe. Without the battle power detector, if they don't get taught a lesson, they won't understand how powerful we, the soldiers whose battle power far surpasses theirs, are. Sigh, there's no other way." This time, even Jinyu lost his patience. He looked at the weakest shorty in the special forces and said, "Gudu, you go and play with them." Hearing this, Gudu blinked the 4 eyes on his head and revealed a sinister smile. "Hee, okay, leave it to me, Captain." After saying this, Gudu leaped forward and stood in front of Lucad and Grand Ghost. "Prepare to die. You 2 trash." Although Gudu was short and skinny, and his battle power was the weakest in the special forces, less than 12,000, his attitude towards outsiders was quite arrogant. "Bart." After Gudu stepped forward, Jinyu whispered to Bart beside him, "If Gudu is in any danger, you go and help him." "Understood, Captain." Bart also lowered his voice and replied. From their words and deeds, it was not difficult to see Gudu was really weak compared to the other members of the Special Forces. However, since he was able to occupy a position in the Jinyu force, there was naturally a reason. Although his battle power was not very good, he had a lot of very sharp superpowers. Even if he faced an opponent with higher battle power than him, he could still rely on his superpowers to win. Gudu stood in front of Lucad and Grand Ghost, these 2 fierce men who were several times taller than him. He was not the slightest bit afraid as he twisted his bucket-like waist and swayed his short body to warm up, as if he was mocking the other party. Grand Ghost. Lucad did not even look at Gudu as he turned his head to Grand Ghost and said, "Those guys behind," referring to the superdimensional army that is still entangled with Chi Tiendi. "It won't take long for them to catch up. At that time, there will be unexpected complications." His gaze turned cold. "I think, let's end this quickly." Grand Ghost muttered, "Okay, let's do it." Before he finished speaking, Luca and Grand Ghost suddenly stood side by side and exploded their fighting energy. Beep, beep, beep. HM? Guys looked at the data fed back by the detector, and his expression changed. What? 39,000. Hey, I didn't see wrong, right? Bart said to Guys. They were partners, and both had battle power around 40,000. Isn't this about the same as our battle power? Seeing this change, Rikum and Gudu also revealed a surprised expression. It can greatly increase battle power without transforming. Only Jinyu was still calm, as he inwardly thought, and it has increased by more than 3 times. But it still doesn't pose any threat to us. However, what happened next immediately refreshed his worldview. Huh. At this moment, Luca and Grand Ghost both shouted, raising their arms and extending them to the side. Then, they slightly bent their legs and quickly approached each other with small steps. They used their arms to draw a semicircle over their heads and place them on the other side of their bodies. While doing this, they began to chant combine. When the two were about 1 meter apart, they each bent one leg and stood on one leg like a golden rooster standing on one leg. Then, they once again placed their arms on the outside side. Then they bowed toward each other, bending their upper bodies sideways and extending an index finger on each hand. Finally, the two touched their 4 fingers and shouted the word body at the same time. During the entire process, the two's postures, movements, and even aura were completely synchronized. Observing from opposite sides was like looking at a mirror image. This move was undoubtedly the legendary fusion. As long as the two fighters with similar build and battle power were not too different, they would raise their chi to almost the same state and then make this special and awkward activation posture. They would be able to obtain a temporary fusion effect. And the 2-in-1 fighter born from the fusion would have an explosive increase in battle power. Here, digression. In the CVS, Capcom_VS_SNK series, there were 2 super powerful characters that could be called BT. One was God, Grand Ghost, who absorbed the power of the serpent from Lucid. The other was God, Lucid, who was born after absorbing the fluctuations of killing intent. The fusion fighter in front of them was equivalent to a monster born after superimposing the various abilities of these 2 characters by 4 dimensions. The moment Hao Jia appeared, the battle energy around his body soared into the sky and broke through the clouds. Beep, 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 beep. The battle power detector of the 5 members of the Jinyu force issued a buzzing sound, and the constantly soaring values on the lenses made them turn pale with fright. 400,000, 450,000, 500,000, 500,000, 580,000. G's followed the number and stammered a few times until the value exceeded 600,000. Then he stopped talking. About 10 seconds later, the light on Grand Ghost's body dissipated, and his chi entered a saturated and stable state. At this time, his battle power stopped increasing and was fixed at the number 240,000. What kind of joke is this? The tall and strong Bart said while trembling. It must be a mechanical failure. This is impossible. Yes, that's right. Jeez continued. This guy was deliberately mystifying for a long time. In fact, he used some kind of illusion, or he used a special ability to interfere with the battle power detector. He deceived himself and others by muttering a few words, and then reluctantly laughed a few times, looked at Grand Ghost and said, "Hey, don't think you can deceive us. This kind of trick can't scare us." Humph! Grand Ghost, who was standing in the same place with his arms crossed, coldly snorted, and 2 overlapping voices came from his mouth. A bunch of ignorant frogs at the bottom of the well who don't know life from death, running amok in their own universe and thinking they are invincible. He returned G's previous words back to him. You who only know how to rely on the so-called battle power detector won't understand how powerful we are. While speaking, Grand Ghost's gaze moved slightly and stopped on Gudu's body. Gudu, who was very arrogant just a moment ago, now became like a toad being stared at by a snake. He froze in place and didn't dare to move. Then let's start with you, Grand Ghost said, leaned sideways and retracted his arms, putting his palms together and assumed a posture, God's Hadouken. Chapter 853. North of Wushuang Plains, on the wasteland. The short battle between the three innates and Qi Tiandi had ended long ago. The three innates who were severely injured had been saved by the other superdimensional troops. At this moment, Jelugong Emperor was casting Wind Seal, a wind elemental applied elven magic spell. The wind elves formed a transparent spherical barrier around the caster and gave him the ability to fly. The caster could fly with other people at the same time. The speed and weight of the flight depended on the caster's proficiency. He carried the severely injured Sword Son of Immortals, Buddhist sword parting story, and sparse dragon mansion, who could barely hold on and moved forward with all his might. The task of bringing up the rear naturally fell on the others. Although they were called others, most of them were characters from the world of lightning. Since their power system was similar to that of Qi Tiandi, and they were generally stronger compared to characters from other universes, as long as Qi Tiandi continued to show mercy, they should be able to hold on. However, they could only hold on. They didn't need to think about counterattacking. It was because they came from the same universe as Qi Tiandi that they couldn't pose a real threat to him. It was hard to tell who was stronger between two people who existed in different time and space. However, the outcome of two people who existed in the same time and space could be predicted to a certain extent. For example, Lord Guan fought Qin Xiong, and there was usually no result. However, if Lord Guan fought Yin Liang, the result was obvious. Therefore, the superdimensional troops had a clear goal. They would use Urahara Kisuk as a bait to lure Qi Tiandi to Yuan Lu Ji and facilitate the battle between gods and demons. Then, they would be safe for the time being. To put it simply, only monsters can block monsters. Huh? What's going on? At this moment, Feng Bujiwe, who was running at the front of the crowd, he had been staying far away from Qi Tiandi, suddenly saw something about 100 meters away. There stood a tall and muscular figure. In front of him, there were 5 corpses in combat suits. Who's that? Looking at their clothes, there are people. He seems to have killed a few of Frisia's subordinates. The other people in the superdimensional troops soon noticed the situation in front of them and asked in confusion. However, their doubts and curiosity didn't slow them down. After all, no matter what the situation in front of them was, the situation in the back was definitely worse. Wait, the 5 who died on the ground shouldn't be. Feng Bujue quickly recognized the identity of the corpses, opened his eyes wide, looked at the figure and thought, this guy wiped out the entire Jinyu force by himself. As he spoke, Brother Ju's eyes glowed. He immediately used the data perspective to observe them. He muttered to himself, these are Luca and Reggie? He seemed to have understood something. At this moment, Feng Bujue had already run past Hao Jia. From the front, Hao Jia was wearing a dark purple Taoist robe. His hairstyle was the same as Luca's, but it was orange in color. There was a touch of red on both sides of his temples. One of his eyes was red and the other was green. The red one was like a pearl, and the green one was like a normal human's. In terms of appearance, he was a little more handsome than the heroic ghost, but also a little more ferocious than Lucid. After running a few more steps, Feng Bujue suddenly thought of something and turned his head. Since we were fighting with the Jinyu force, then his line of sight couldn't help but move to Jinyu's corpse. The guy in front of me now, is he the combination of Lucid and the heroic ghost, or a Jinyu? Brother Ju remembered very clearly that Jinyu's special ability was to exchange bodies with the target. Although Brother Ju didn't know whether Jinyu could exchange bodies with the combination, but in case it was possible, then the real identity of the man standing in front of everyone at this moment would be hard to say. Do you have any questions? At the same second, Hao Jia noticed Feng Bujue's gaze and realized the strangeness in his gaze. So he opened his mouth and asked. Before the word yes could come out of his mouth, his figure flashed in front of Brother Ju as if he had teleported. In the face of this sudden situation, Feng Bujue didn't panic. He thought for a bit and cautiously asked, among the 5 guys just now, the purple one, before he died, Did he try to exchange bodies with me? Hao Jia's double voice directly interrupted Brother Ju. Hearing only half of the sentence, Hao Jia understood the meaning of Brother Ju's gaze, as well as the content of the latter's probe. Yes, Brother Ju saw that the other party had made it clear, so he cautiously retreated half a step before responding. He didn't wait until before he died. Hao Jia continued. When the battle began, he did so. As he spoke, he pointed to Gudu on the ground. When I was about to launch my first move, that little guy immediately used his superpower to freeze me. Even though with his power, he could only freeze me for 2 seconds, but he then pointed at Jinyu's body. That purple guy used these 2 seconds to shout change and used the ultimate move of body exchange on me. And then, hearing this, Feng Bujue's expression relaxed because he had a feeling that Jinyu seemed to have failed. It was said to be a body exchange, but it was actually an exchange of thoughts or spirit, how Jia replied. That Jinyu's spirit rushed into our consciousness along the wave of light and was instantly swallowed by the wave of murderous intent. It didn't affect us at all, and his body died because of that. No wonder. As they spoke, Feng Bujue took a closer look at the 5 bodies of the Special Forces and realized, other than Jinyu, the other 4 bodies had very obvious external injuries. Only Jinyu's body looked unharmed. Feng Bujue, is it? 2 seconds later, Hao Jia spoke again. I have noticed you a long time ago. You seem to be very familiar with everyone here, including Qi Tiandi and Frisia's men. He paused for half a second before asking, Who exactly are you? Boom. Before he finished, there was another shocking explosion behind him. The monstrous power stirred up a storm. How about that? Feng Bujue laughed dryly. Let's talk about it later. He changed the topic. The most important thing now is to lure Qi Tiandi to the arena. After that, he turned and ran, not giving the other party a chance to ask any more questions. Humph! Looking at his brother Ju's back, Hao Jia sneered, what a cunning guy. Below Guji City, the arena, a small flying device slowly floated to the side of the arena. Frisia was still sitting in the flying device in his original form. Ping Qingsheng and Dong Zhuo followed behind him. At this time, there was no one else in this area. The only one left was a lone demon in the arena, Yuan Luji. This king, Yuan Luji, turned around and looked at Frisia, has been waiting for you for a long time. Frisia smiled and said, Haha, seeing is believing. So this is the demon king from another dimension. Beep, beep. Frisia raised his hand and pressed the detector a few times. He had put on a new combat ability detector before leaving. He saw Yuan Luji's combat ability in his normal state. Ho! 600,000. Frisia's expression changed slightly. 2 seconds later, he said in a playful tone, That's so scary. Humph! Yuan Luji laughed. The Emperor of the Universe from another dimension. Although you're very strong, ironically, you lack the most basic pursuit of a warrior. Oh, why do you say that? Frisia asked with a puzzled expression. I can see that most of your power is innate, Yuan Luji said. You haven't practiced hard or studied martial arts. He raised a Vici and pointed at Frisia condescendingly. And a real warrior doesn't need the device on your face at all. He can detect the strength of his opponent just by feeling. Ha! Ha ha ha! Frisia was not angry at all. Instead, he laughed out loud. Well, you're right. I really haven't worked hard on my cultivation. I think, if I practice seriously, I may be so strong that even I can't imagine it. He paused for a moment, and the smile on his face gradually became strange. But do you know the reason why I don't practice? Huh? Yuan Luji used an auxiliary word and motioned for Frisia to continue. That's because, Frisia said as he climbed out of the aircraft and jumped lightly into the arena. Even if I don't practice deliberately, I'm already invincible. After that, he bent his legs slightly, clenched his fists, and gathered the energy around him, bursting out a blue aura. The earth trembled because of the surge of energy in his body. The gravel on the ground flew into the air, and the air became incomparably heavy. Oh, this is... Ping Qingsheng had a bad feeling and quickly retreated dozens of meters. Hey, wait for me. Dongjua also scrambled to run away. Squeak, squeak. The surge of energy made Frisia's body begin to swell, and the sound of liquid being pumped came from the texture of his muscles. Ah, 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 ah. Frisia also let out a few screams. Although he didn't know whether the transformation process was painful or not, it was certainly not very good. After about 20 seconds, Frisia's height doubled. His body became tall and sturdy, comparable to LVG's. The pair of horns on his head also bent upwards, turning into the shape of a bull's horn that reached the sky. Ah! Ha! After the transformation, Frisia gasped a few times. Ha! How is it? This body with a battle power of more than 1 million. Did it make you feel despair? Despair? Yuan Luji's expression and tone were not so much despair, but disappointment. Is this your so-called invincible? He said coldly. This kind of battle power. He turned his head and looked to the north. It's roughly on par with him. Ooh, Frisia's face was full of doubt. He followed Yuan Luji's gaze and saw a man in full armor, holding a sky piercer. The battle power detector soon gave back a number, 15,000. Ha! Frisia laughed. Are you kidding? Yuan Luji. On the other side, Lubu jumped into the ring and stood there madly. He glanced at Frisia and then stared at the Demon King. I made you wait for a long time. I will defeat you now. After saying that, he held his halberd and shouted, and his whole body exploded with fighting energy. Beep, 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 huh? The number in front of Frisia's eyes, at this moment, began to increase exponentially. 30,000, 60,000, 120,000, 240,000. Frisia counted in his heart. This guy, what kind of transformation is this? Huh. Along with his last shout, Lu Bu's whole body armor turned into a dark golden color. A devil-like mask appeared on his face. His hair turned into a fiery red color, like a cloak draped down to his waist. His skin turned pitch black, and his muscles also swelled. Ultimate Martial Azura Transformation. This is the ultimate ability that Lu Bu in this time and space, after going through extraordinary training, accumulating battle experience with countless experts, and tempering his body thousands of times. It was also that move that Feng Bujua had mentioned before. This move had two disadvantages. First, in order to suppress the Azura in his body, Lu Bu's battle power in his normal state was affected, and he couldn't use it fully. Second, the duration of Azura transformation couldn't exceed 10 minutes. If it exceeded this time limit, the user's life force would be in danger of being exhausted. Of course, for Lu Bu, who used this move, 10 minutes was enough to determine the winner. 890,000. Frisia looked at the number that finally stabilized and breathed a sigh of relief. He thought to himself, that scared me. Stop fiddling with the device on your face, Frisia. A few meters away, Lu Ji seemed to have seen through Frisia's thoughts and immediately said to him, in this extra-dimensional space created by this king, there is no absolute strength or weakness. It is very foolish to rely on the judgment made by a machine. He was right. Although battle power was indeed a very good reference data, it was not the only basis to determine the winner. Even creatures with 8 digits of battle power could be killed in a certain way, such as destruction on the spiritual level, having their vital organs cut off in an unguarded state, entering a special environment where they couldn't metabolize, and so on. Special physiques, special techniques, special skills. The subtle restraint of different power systems in different universes could cross the concept of battle power and complete the kill. As long as the situation was right, it was entirely possible for a weakling with a hunting rifle to kill a powerhouse in the world of Thunderbolt or the world of Fist. Humph! Frisia snorted and stared at Lu Ji. It's useless to say more. Right now, you are surrounded by enemies, and your battle power is the weakest among the 3 sides. What right do you have to be arrogant and teach me a lesson? Indeed, it's useless to say more. Lu Ji replied and slowly closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, the color of his eyes changed. At this moment, white streams of data flowed through Lu Ji's eyes. Come at me together. Chapter 8:54. Frisia didn't know what UNLG did. The latter didn't transform, nor did he show any signs of increasing his fighting power or demonic energy. But his combat power quietly rose to 2 million. Tis, Frisia thought to himself. His combat power actually surpassed my second form. Fortunately, I discovered it early. Otherwise, this demon king from another dimension may really surpass me one day. Although Frisia's voice was strange, and his appearance was quite strange from a human's point of view, he could be said to be gentle and polite usually. For those subordinates whose combat power was less than a fraction of his own, he used honorifics to address them. When giving orders, he rarely used a harsh tone. Of course, this was also related to his strength. His subordinates knew how terrifying he was, so Frisia didn't need to use harsh words to order them around. But when facing a strong enemy or when angered, Frisia's extremely cruel nature would gradually be exposed. How dare you say all of you can come together? Frisia gnashed his teeth. Do you know who you were talking to? Before he finished speaking on the other side, Lubu had already leaped forward and attacked with his halberd. Lubu had no reason to wait for the two to finish speaking. He couldn't afford to wait. Defeating UNLG in a one-on-one duel was Lubu's long-cherished wish. Whether Frisia was next to him or not, it didn't matter to him. For a moment, however, fighting power was abundant. Under the blazing edge of the halberd, it shook before it hit. Facing Lubu, who was in the state of Azura transformation, UNLG calmly responded and blocked with his halberd. Ping! The moment the halberd and Avicii collided, black fire suddenly burst out, and a strange sound rang in all directions. Then, Lubu and UNLG's figures suddenly blurred and immediately turned into two black shadows, cruising at high speed on the stage. The halberd and the halberd and the halberd and the halberd surged with fighting power. Demon god against demon king, wherever the two shadows passed, a series of rising and falling sounds were left behind, bursting out layers of fierce demonic energy. Beep, beep, beep. At this time, Frisia's combat power detector immediately reacted. He was surprised to find that the combat power of the two people in front of him had increased to 1,000,001. For million, respectively, from the moment the weapons met. And in this battle as fast as the wind, their combat power was still changing at high speed, rising and falling. This is outrageous. Frisia quickly floated up, retreated a few steps, and then used his second transformation. Obviously, he felt that standing here in the state of the second stage was no longer enough to guarantee his safety. Ka! A scream, the prelude to the change. In the next few seconds, two giant, tusk-like horns suddenly protruded from Frisia's back. The muscles of his limbs further expanded, and his torso began to expand horizontally. The white, bone-like skin on his shoulders also spread to both sides. His face protruded forward, and his head bulged backward, turning into the shape of a spider's abdomen. The horns on his head also became four, growing on both sides of his long head. S's of SSS of S's. S was of his TS look, S look, S. In this form, Frisia's combat power was more than 2 million, which firmly suppressed Yuan Luji and Azura Lubu in front of him. Humph! What two ridiculous guys! Frisia, who had finished his transformation, landed on the ground again. He looked at the two figures moving at high speed and trembling in the arena from afar, and said disdainfully, "They have such combat power, but they are still so obsessed with close combat. Unreasonable. It's not difficult to understand." Suddenly, a double voice sounded from behind Frisia. Huh? Frisia looked back alertly and saw a man in a Taoist robe. Hey! He also saw this combat powers of 2 for million on the detector. Because, we men, how Jia's face was full of murderous intent, and he continued the sentence just now, like the feeling of punching others. When his voice fell, Frisia's eyes turned black. The next moment, he heard the sound of intensive punching. Before Frisia felt pain, 1,000 strikes in a flash had already ended. The whole process was like a blink of an eye. After a second, Frisia regained his vision. The first thing that entered his line of sight was Hao Jia's back, as well as the word God that appeared on the back of his Taoist robe. And in a place that Frisia couldn't see, that is, on Hao Jia's chest, the word heaven also appeared. Emperor, instant hell, kill. All the people who had been hit by this move before had a feeling that, after closing their eyes and opening their eyes, their life had already passed. Seeing this, some people might wonder why Hao Jia suddenly appeared here when the other members of the superdimensional army hadn't arrived yet. The answer was very simple. As long as he hurried with all his strength, he would be able to arrive here. Even those guys from the Jinya force could outflank Wushuang Yuan Bei in a short period of time. So Hao Jia could naturally reach the martial arts stage at a very fast speed. After all, the time of fusion was limited. Every time after releasing the fusion, he had to wait for a considerable period of time before he could fuse again. Therefore, Hao Jia took advantage of the fact that he could still maintain the fusion state to quickly rush over and kill as many as he could. Humph, you're only SOSO. Looking at Frisia, who had fallen to the ground, Hao Jia coldly snorted and turned around to take Yuan Luji's life. Unexpectedly, with a loud sound, a purple light suddenly appeared. A laser-like beam of light suddenly struck Hao Jia from behind, penetrating his chest. Ugh! Hao Jia was careless in the end. After being hit, he quickly urged the power of the Great Serpent to heal himself and used the fluctuation of killing intent to forcibly support his body. He suddenly turned around and assumed a fighting posture. However, he couldn't see Frisia's trace in his sight. Where is he? Hao Jia's eyes moved quickly and searched around. About 2 seconds later, he realized something. It's above. Hao Jia suddenly raised his head and just happened to see a white light shining. At this moment, Frisia's entire body was covered with pink light patterns. The outer layer of his body that looked like cartilage, skin, and reptiles' abdominal flesh were all hardened and shattered. Ka! Ka! Ah! This time, Frisia let out the most hoarse scream. The astonishing energy that erupted from his body directly shattered the Inferno River barrier. Even Yuan Luji and Lu Bu, who were fighting, stagnated for a moment. How? Seeing this, Hao Jia proudly used his power and stepped on the ground. Gale, Tianba wave-crushing slash. Once the ultimate move was used, it broke through the wind and clouds. Hao Jia stepped on the ground and made a huge pit. His figure was like a hidden dragon coming out of the abyss, unstoppable. This ultimate move that contained the power of the Great Serpent and the fluctuation of killing intent. In terms of combat power, it had exceeded 3 million. It was even more shocking than the instant hell kill just now. But bang! Facing Hao Jia's ultimate move, Frisia only raised a finger and said the word bang in a joking tone. In a split second, a red light wave shot out from the tip of his finger. With an incredible speed, it made a second hole on Hao Jia's body. This time, even if Hao Jia had double divine power, he still couldn't make it. When his body fell to the ground, the light and dust in the sky gradually dispersed. Frisia, only then did he reveal his true appearance. His body shape looked like a child, very small. His skin was like glue and porcelain, snow white. His head, shoulders, upper abdomen, and the outside of his limbs were covered with a purple, smooth carapace. His body didn't have any hair, nor any obvious sexual characteristics. The tail behind his buttocks was now white. Just as I said, Frisia's expression became calm and cold. The injuries on his body had also magically healed after he transformed. Purely relying on close combat is unreasonable. After landing, Hao Jia didn't hear Frisia's words. His body quickly turned into a purple light and split into two, turning into 2 men who fainted on the ground side by side. These 2 men each had 2 bloody holes, and the location of the wounds are the same. Ha! Ha ha! Ping Qing Sheng, who witnessed this scene from afar. The corners of his mouth twitched as he laughed. His eyes were 30% dull and 70% fanatical. He will win. He will definitely win. Lord Frisia, is invincible. Yuan Luji is not his opponent at all. Ha ha, 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 right? That's right. Dong Zhuo, who was beside him, also laughed dryly. However, there was fear on his face. Fortunately, we chose to side with Frisia early on. Ha ha. While these two people were laughing, something strange happened. Yuan Luji, Frisia. A loud shout came from the north. This man who called the Demon King and the Emperor by their names was Feng Bujue. Qi Tiandi is here. Kneel down. 5 minutes ago, on the Wushuang Plateau, Qi Tiandi, who was chasing after the superdimensional army, was tired of the game of tag. Therefore, he slowed down his pace and shifted his attention to the matter of destroying the spatial boundary. Therefore, the group of people behind the superdimensional army finally heaved a sigh of relief. They didn't have to worry about the rear anymore and sped up. Soon, Feng Bujue, who was running in the front, caught up with the group in the front. Coincidentally, the group of superdimensional heroes who were running north from the martial arts platform also arrived here. Chief Xian, why are you here? Seeing this, Feng Bujue immediately rushed to Tsang and asked, Where's Yuan Luji? What happened at the martial arts platform? Yuan Luji, Tsang replied with a complicated expression. His power is far beyond our imagination. My plan couldn't have worked from the beginning. He paused for a moment and said, But Yuan Luji didn't kill us. On the contrary, he asked us to leave and went to fight Frisia alone. Really? Hearing this, Feng Bujue's eyes flashed with a strange light, and his mind raced. By the way, I saw Lu Bu and another man who I don't know running toward the martial arts platform. I couldn't stop them. Song continued. Don't worry about them. Feng Bujue interrupted Song. If Frisia is already here, they'll definitely die. Brother Bujue knew that Qi Tiandi was the only one who could fight against Frisia in his final form. As for how much power Yuan Luji was hiding, he had no idea. Instead of worrying about them, why don't we do something practical? Practical? Song looked doubtful. Ahem, ahem. At this moment, Marquis Lonely came to them and said at Song, Chief Xian, what the crazy man means is, he looked up at the sky. Since things have come to this, why don't we change our plan and act according to the situation? All right, don't bother with those empty words. At this point, Feng Bujue was too lazy to be polite to them. He immediately interrupted. Time is limited. Qi Tiandi will catch up with us at any time. Let's talk about something practical. He pointed at the martial arts platform. Yuan Luji and Frisia are messing around at the martial arts platform. Lu Bu and Hao Gue are also messing things up. They won't be able to get away for a while. He raised his hand and gestured. On our side, we didn't suffer any losses. At least we still have 80% of our combat power. Hearing this, Song basically understood what Feng Bujue was going to say next. We can't afford to miss such a great opportunity. Brother Ju continued. In my opinion, we should split into two groups. The main group will charge at Guji City and attack, while the Demon King isn't here. We'll leave a small group to protect Pu Yuan as he goes to the martial arts platform. As long as we can lure Qi Tiandi, Yuan Luji, and Frisia to one place, it doesn't matter whether Pu Yuan is dead or alive. At that time, the three strongest forces will gather, and a battle will be inevitable. Moreover, this battle will cause the sky to fall and the earth to crack and the space-time to tremble. We can use this to persuade the demon generals in Guji City, such as Daji. Previously, she was completely suppressed by Qi Tiandi. I think she won't be able to recover in a year or so. As long as we scare her, she'll probably betray us. He sneered sinisterly. The army is pressing on us, and time and space are about to collapse. It's hard to tell whether the Demon King is dead or alive. Humph. I reckon that in that situation, there will be a large group of demon army soldiers fighting to take us to destroy the seal. Song hesitated for a few seconds and said, It's a good plan, but Xian Shou obviously felt uncomfortable with some of the content in Brother Ju's words. Don't be too naive, Song. Song, Feng Bujue yelled. Instead of wasting time on my words, why don't we move? How? How dare you call me Tsong? Time returned to the present. On the martial arts practice platform, weapons of war were ignited, and the battle situation was becoming more and more stalemated. The battle between Yuan Lu Ji and Azura Lu Bu had reached the climax. Frisia, who was floating at the edge of the platform, turned his head and looked at brother Ju curiously. What did you say? You want me to kneel? After asking this question, he laughed. Ha ha! You idiot! Who do you think I am? I'm the Emperor of the Universe, Great Frisia. Beep, 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 boom! Sparks exploded on the detector, and Frisia's words came to an abrupt halt. The Emperor of the Universe's expression turned serious again. His pair of small, red pupils also focused behind Feng Bujue. At this moment, about 20 superdimensional army masters stood about 10 meters behind Brother Ju, including Li Ruoyu. Looking several hundred meters behind them, they could see a black silhouette drifting closer. Oh! After Frisia shifted his gaze to Qi Tiandi, he couldn't move his gaze away. He's finally here, a guy with over 8 digits of combat power. Meanwhile, in the center of the martial arts platform, he's here. A huge stream of data flashed across Yuan Luji's eyes. Very good. As he thought of this, his figure suddenly accelerated. What? In the next second, Azura Lu Bu couldn't help but yell in shock, because the Yuan Lu Ji, who was still locked in battle with him just now, at this moment, just casually raised his hand and grabbed his halberd. It ends here, unparalleled demon god. While saying this, Yuan Lu Ji's demonic energy spread along the halberd and instantly corroded Lu Bu's body. As a warrior, I enjoy this battle with you. He paused for a moment. But as a demon king, I have more important things to do. In an instant, Lu Bu's Azura transformation was completely suppressed by Yuan Lu Ji's demonic energy, which forced him back to his original state. This made Lu Bu furious. At this moment, Lu Bu finally understood that the gap between him and Yuan Lu Ji was still unreachable. Until just now, Yuan Lu had been fighting with him as a martial artist, and the power that truly belonged to the Demon King. Yuan Lu had not used it at all. At the same time, Qi Tianyi noticed the two people on the martial arts platform, and his eyes flickered slightly. Chapter 855. Guji City, Main Palace. The superdimensional army had launched their attack not long ago. All the demon generals in the city had joined the battle. Only Daji was left in the palace to command. Master Daji. At this moment, a demon soldier ran to the front of the palace in panic and reported, "The East Gate has been breached. If this goes on, pass down my order. Continue to defend." Daji interrupted him and ordered in a deep voice, "No matter what, don't let them get close to the Heavenly Guardian." "Yes, yes." The fiendish demon soldier answered and dashed out. After he ran far away, Daji's expression turned serious again. "This is terrible." She placed her hand on her ribs unconsciously and muttered to herself, "What kind of monster is that Qi Tiandi? Staying near him for a while damaged my demon origin." Daji was a little worried. Qi Tianyi's shocking power had shocked her. Her demon life outlook was shaken. "Master Yuan Lu Ji, is he really okay?" At the same time, at the east gate of Guji City, "Mr. Kong Ming, the city gate has been destroyed. Our army is unstoppable. The situation is in our favor." Song, who was in the superdimensional army, said to Zhuge Liang beside him, "What do you think? What should we do next?" Kong Ming said calmly and waved his feather fan. After thinking for a while, he replied, "In my humble opinion, our army should split into 3. Hey, Song." Before Kong Ming could finish his sentence, Sima interrupted, "I'm also a military advisor, right? Why is everyone asking for Kong Ming's opinion at this moment?" Song was speechless. He didn't dare to say anything because he was afraid of offending people. Cough, cough, cough. Marquis lonely coughed and showed his sickly face that was full of resentment in front of everyone. His subtext was, "I'm the Crown Prince, the military advisor and prime minister of the brilliant Purple Dynasty. I'm from the same universe as Tsong. But he didn't ask for my opinion first. Huh. Seeing this, Kongming chuckled. Brother Zhonda is right. This time, let's listen to his strategy first. Zhuge Liang was also quick-witted. He knew that in this situation, Sima Yi's plan would be no different from his. Therefore, he pretended to be modest. In any case, the result would be the same. How could Sima Yi not know what this old rival beside him was thinking? Therefore, he was not polite to Zhuge Liang at all. After a cold snort, he opened his mouth and said, "In front of us, the enemy's defense is clear. They want to block our way. It can be seen that there must be something strange about the heavenly guard in the city. It is most likely where the seal is. The new enemy's momentum is faintly leaning to the west. This means that is the resurrection place of the demon army. In addition, the demon Qi is clear in the south of the city. The strength of the southern army is the strongest, and the strength of the demon generals in the army is also stronger." Sima Yi's analysis was well organized. He said, "In my opinion, our army should immediately split into 3 groups. The first group, send 100 elite soldiers to attack the location of the Heavenly Guard. The second group, send out all those who have the ability to deal damage to a large area to block the resurrected demon army from the west. The third group, leave all the remaining main forces to continue attacking the enemy in the south." He paused for a moment. With this arrangement, the enemy's army in the middle won't be able to take advantage of a long battle line. The resurrected demon army won't be able to return to the battlefield quickly. The main forces in the south will be affected by our surprise attack and will be unable to advance or retreat. Brother Zhonda is wise. Hearing this, Kongming smiled and said, "Brilliant. I'm impressed." Sima Yi narrowed his eyes and looked at Zhuge Liang. After 2 seconds, he said 2 words that were not very elegant. Scram. Cough, cough, cough. A cough, cough, cough. The Marquis of Loneliness looked at the 2 of them and chuckled like a Fujoshi. However, after a few laughs, it turned into violent coughs. Song said awkwardly. "All right, we'll do as Advisor Sima said. I'll use telepathy to inform the entire army." On the other side, in the Wushuang martial arts arena under Guji City, a strange moon hung in the sky in the Wushuang wasteland. Today, an earth-shattering demonic battle that would make ghosts and gods cry was about to begin. Qi Tiandi, the emperor of the universe, and the Wushuang snake demon. One was the god of destruction who looked down on mortals. One was the cruel and arrogant frost demon. The last one was Yamada, a no-orochi with unpredictable power. When they appeared in the same place, in each of their hearts, a killing intent that originated from their biological instincts had already ignited. "You spent so much effort to lure me here, just to let me meet them?" Chitiani looked down at Urahara Kisuk. His attitude was still calm and generous. "Haha, I've already given the Hogyoku to Yuan Luji." Urahara wasn't easy to deal with. He lied immediately. "If you want it, just ask him." Oh, Chitiani wasn't stupid. He knew Urahara was lying. However, he didn't want to expose him because he had lost his patience. In other words, it's useless to keep you alive. Before he finished speaking, Urahara's pupil shrank and his expression changed. "Run!" As Feng Bujue roared this word, he activated body enhancement technique, change, and distanced himself from Urahara. On Urahara's side, he had already moved the moment Brother Ju spoke. The killing intent of a god was comparable to a substantial energy impact. Ordinary people might have a mental breakdown or even die the moment they felt this kind of energy. However, Urahara Kisuk wasn't an ordinary person. Therefore, the moment he felt this killing intent, he immediately reacted. Shuanpa was an excellent movement skill. With Urahara's spiritual pressure and experience, as long as he didn't hesitate to use his spiritual power to escape with all his strength, his speed wouldn't be inferior to Bard of the Jinyu Force. However, Hand of God. Chitiani recited the name slowly. His figure flashed, and he was already in front of Urahara. In a flash, he struck with his palm. Bang! Blood splattered. People faded away. There were no screams, no sudden changes in expression, and no fear. Because all of this had happened too quickly. It was faster than sound, faster than sight, and even faster than people's thoughts. Chi Tiandi's close combat technique was a one-hit kill, intimidating everyone. Of the 20 or so super-dimensional army members present, including Feng Bujue, none of them saw the enemy's movement clearly. However, Frisia and Yuan Luzi saw it clearly. You must be joking. Frisia's face was covered in cold sweat. He thought, I must kill him here. I can't let him live in this world. Humph. Ha. On the other side, Yuan Luzi laughed out loud. Great. I've been waiting for an opponent like you. Opponent? Chi Tiandi turned around and looked at Yuan Luzi from the corner of his eyes. An evil creature from another world wants to challenge the authority of a god? It's because he's a god. Yuan Luzi raised, seamless, and pointed at Chi Tiandi. Killing him is meaningful. Ugh. Chi Tiandi's expression changed slightly. Do you really have the Hogyoku? Seeing Yuan Luzi's confidence, he suspected that Yuan Luzi had the Hogyoku to rely on. Ha ha ha. Yuan Luzi laughed. I do know where the Hogyoku is. Urahara Kisuk is a smart person. He hid that treasure in the spiritual body of a person. He said to Chi Tiandi in an arrogant tone, however, it's against my Tao to increase my strength with the power of an item. So, I didn't do anything to the Hogyoku. In fact, Yuan Luzi had misunderstood Chi Tiandi. Chi Tiandi wanted the Hogyoku not to increase his strength, but to use it for something else. Of course, Chi Tiandi wouldn't explain it to others because gods were used to being misunderstood by mortals. Hearing this, Chi Tiandi turned around calmly and looked at Yuan Luzi. Good. I appreciate your arrogance. Then he waved his hand. I just don't know if you have the strength to match it. Seeing Chi Tiandi exerting force in his palm, Yuan Luzi didn't dare to be arrogant and chose to release his force. God from the realm of 6 heavens. Since you want to see it, I'll satisfy your wish. While speaking, Yuan Luzi raised seamless and clasped his hands together, saying, Resurrección, Orochi. Chapter 856. After returning to the blade, Yuan Luzi morphed into a giant monster with 8 heads and 8 tails. This giant snake monster's head was as tall as the clouds, and its eyes were like turmeric grass. It was as large as a dragon, and its demonic aura was shocking. Before such a huge monster, fists, swords, and guns had lost their meaning. There weren't many super-dimensional soldiers present. Seeing this scene, they all chose to retreat. After all, their mission had been completed. Even if they stayed, they would not be of any use. In fact, they might even be killed. Only 2 people were still standing near the martial arts stage, not moving at all. These 2 were naturally Feng Bujue and Ruoyu. In the evil wind, Brother Ju looked at Ruoyu, who stood 5 meters away from him, and asked, Aren't you going to run? I'm not running. Ruoyu raised one hand to stroke the hair by her cheek, and answered coldly. It's very dangerous to stay here, Feng Bujue reminded her. The same goes for you, Ruoyu said as her hand moved to the sword at her waist. It could be said that the 2 of them knew each other very well and had a tacit understanding. They both understood that no matter how strong the boss in this scenario was, for the players, the real threat came from each other. I'm staying here because I'm curious. I want to see the result of their battle, Feng Bujue said. Is that so? Ruoyu looked coldly at Brother Ju and calmly exposed the latter. I thought you were waiting for Yuan Luzi to reveal the whereabouts of the Hogyoku. Huh? Feng Bujue laughed, but did not say anything. Ruoyu continued. In this situation, I don't think you'll leave. I'll watch this show with you. At that moment, they could already point their swords at each other. But the 2 chose not to move. They all understood that, standing beside these 3 monsters, even if they were just spectating, they still needed to concentrate quite a bit. Otherwise, they might really be killed by the energy that leaked out. If players were to fight here, they would have to take the risk of being defeated by a third party. Ruoyu obviously didn't want that. Therefore, Feng Bujue decided to stay here. This way, he could quietly observe the information revealed by the boss battle and he could also temporarily delay the battle between himself and Ruo Yu. It could be said to be killing two birds with one stone. On the other hand, in a certain alley south of Guji City, after the chaotic battle began, many people in the superdimensional army were separated from the main army. After all, there were many demons in the army. In comparison, although the superdimensional army's individual combat ability was strong, there were only a few hundred of them. It was inevitable that some of them would gradually leave the formation. Unknowingly, Hua Jian was left alone. I finally found a good opportunity. At this moment, 7 Kills, who had been hiding in the dark for a long time, finally felt that the time was ripe and was ready to attack. His speed was very fast, and his attacks were decisive. From a moment he closed in on his opponent to the moment he attacked, it only took him 2 seconds. 2 seconds later, his 100 styles floating cart hit his target. According to 7 Kills estimation, against a player who specialized in healing, this move was enough to determine the winner. After 7 Kills finished his attack, he turned around and muttered, "A game is a game. Don't blame me." However, the next second, the scene that entered his sight made his expression change drastically. What? The Hua Jian that was attacked earlier started to melt like a wax figure and disappeared on the ground. A substitute, the moment 7 Kills reacted, his eyes moved quickly, and soon, he caught sight of a figure 10 meters away. In the blink of an eye, he was only 2 meters away from Hua Jian. Unexpectedly, at the same second, another figure appeared behind Hua Jian. That figure was none other than Wang Tangji. As it turned out, 7 Kills was not the only one who was hiding in the dark and trying to assassinate Hua Jian. As the saying went, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Xiao Tan had been staring at the head for a long time, and he had already noticed 7 Kills' presence. Therefore, he had been waiting for 7 Kills to make the first move so that he could act when the time came. If 7 Kills succeeded, then Xiao Tan's target would naturally shift to 7 Kills. If 7 Kills' first attack failed, then Xiao Tan would be able to finish him off and kill Hua Jian before he could regain his footing. Humph! This kid is really merciless. At this moment, 7 Kills thought to himself, "Oh well, I don't mind letting him have this kill. It's just some skill points. One less opponent is one less opponent." Xiao Tan's thoughts were similar to 7 Kills. It was the right choice not to rush out first. I knew Hua Jian would use substitute wax figure, but this skill can't be used twice in a short period of time. This kill, I'll take it. One in front, one behind, the blade, the wind from the fist. They were as fast as the wind and as fierce as lightning. Hua Jian was a player who specialized in medic, and her level was the lowest among them. It was inevitable that she would become the target of everyone. Before this, due to the large crowd, it was inconvenient for the players to attack their allies, but now there was no one around, so there was no need for them to hold back. Seeing that Hua Jian was attacked from both sides, and both of them were experts who could kill her in one hit, it seemed like her life in this scenario had come to an end. But there was no trace of panic or despair on her face. Instead, there was a cold smile on her lips. Ping, ping. The next moment, there were 2 clangs, and 2 shadows appeared. Wang Tangji's military knife and 7 Kills' gauntlets were blocked, because 2 great swordsmen had already arrived at Hua Jian's side to protect him. Cough! Master Hua Jian was right. Tachibana King's blade trembled, and he forced 7 Kills back several meters. So, the 2 of you are really spies sent by Lu Ji. Black Iron King unleashed his sword, Aura, and forced Xiao Tan back 10 meters. As soon as the 2 sword heroes who had already recovered from the treatment entered the arena, the situation of the battle immediately changed. Of course, why would I lie to you? She paused to look at 7 Kills and Xiao Tan. I told you, as long as I act alone, they will give themselves away. Tisk, we've been tricked. 7 Kills' face darkened, and he thought to himself, I thought I was the hunter, and she was the prey. But I'm the prey, and she is a brilliant hunter who dares to use herself as bait. With that in mind, his eyes shifted. The people from Underworld Frontline are all so difficult to deal with them. On the other side, Xiaotan narrowed his eyes and thought, we've been tricked. This time, we've been tricked. Xiaotan and 7 kills understood that in this situation, they were forced into a dead end. Explanations were probably superfluous. Even if the two of them had a glib tongue, it would appear pale and powerless in the face of what had just happened. If they abandoned the fight and fled, the news that they were spies from LV Jun would soon spread. By then, the superdimensional army would come after them, and Lu Ji would not hold back either. In short, they would be in deep trouble. Therefore, there was only one choice left for them, which was to kill Hanajin, Tachio Tachio, and Izusuk Eben right here. There would be no witnesses after all, but this was easier said than done. It would be fine if they were on the same side, but the problem was they had to be wary of each other. From the looks of it, it was not 2 against 3, but 1 against 3. Which side would have the support of the healer? So it was obvious which side would have the advantage. There's no other way. We can only bite the bullet. After thinking for a few seconds, Xiaotan, who was at his wit's end, decided to use violence to solve the problem. Humph, let's fight. We'll just kill everyone here. 7 kills was in a similar situation. Compared to using his brain, he preferred to use his fists to solve problems. At the same time, Guji City, Tianshou. Boom! With a loud explosion, the door of Tianshou Pavilion was broken. The demon army guarding the door collapsed like wheat. They were utterly defeated and could not stop the people who broke through the door. Winmark, Yuan Musashi, and Heizi, the 3 elites of the Xiangang sword formation, were unstoppable. They arrived at Tianshou Pavilion as fast as they could. After they broke through the door, they did not detect any traps or formations. There were no soldiers or demon generals guarding Tianshou Pavilion either. Seeing this, the 3 of them were suspicious, but they did not hesitate. They exchanged glances and went up to the top floor of Tianshou Pavilion together. In less than a minute, they arrived at the top floor. They saw that the pavilion was spacious and empty except for a sarcophagus full of curses in the middle. The sarcophagus was chained up with heavy iron chains, and the door was tightly shut. Waves of purplish black, ferocious demonic energy seeped out of the sarcophagus. It was chilling. Is this the seal that Yuan Lu Ji used to draw space-time? Yuan Musashi muttered. Most likely, Heizi said. Such demonic energy is no small matter. If there is anything in this city that can use the seal, it's this sarcophagus. Then what should we do now? Yuan Musashi looked at the other 2 beside him. His question was the same as Winmark and Heizi's. Even if they could confirm that this was the seal, what should they do with it? Now that Koji was dead, they did not know how to destroy the seal. What if the 3 of them did something wrong? Not only did they fail to return each space-time to its original place, but they also dragged other space-time into it? Wouldn't that be a joke? Open the sarcophagus. Winmark thought for a moment, then said coldly, "We'll talk about it later." That makes sense, Heizi said, picking up his 2 flags. There's nothing wrong with opening it and taking a look. Yuan Musashi did not have any objections to this suggestion. So, the 3 of them each broke the chains on the sarcophagus. Suddenly, demonic energy gushed out of the sarcophagus. Black wind blew, and the door of the sarcophagus slowly opened. A few seconds later, the object in the sarcophagus appeared before the 3 of them. At this moment, Yuan Wuzong, Feng Jihen, and Heizi all revealed shocked expressions at the same time and said 3 words in unison, Yuan Lu Ji. Chapter 857. Outside Guji City, the godly battle had begun. Feng Bujue, Li Ruoyu, Ping Qingsheng, Dong Zhua, and Lu Bu, who was standing beside the arena with a stunned expression, were the witnesses of this battle. Evil species from another world. Facing Orochi, Qi Tiandi's expression turned grim. Can you block the godly power by revealing your true form? Before he could finish his sentence, the huge snake had answered Qi Tiandi's question with its actions. The 8 snake heads moved with a loud rumble. launching a well-defined, ferocious, and multi-layered attack. The snake demon's huge body didn't affect its attack speed. The 8 consecutive attacks with the power to uproot mountains and rivers rushed toward Chi Tiendi at the speed of sound, creating gusts of strong wind. Seeing the situation, Chi Tiendi didn't dodge. With a soft shout, he used his ultimate technique, godly light. As soon as the godly light appeared, the sun and the moon dimmed, and a shocking force exploded. At the same moment, suddenly, 2 purple beams of light came from the side of the heaven-abandoning emperor and struck his body. At this moment, Chi Tiendi hadn't finished his attack yet and had no time to deal with the sudden attack. However, buzz, in the next second, 2 strange noises sounded and 2 ripples appeared in the air. Frisia's sneak attack was easily blocked by Chi Tiendi's protective energy shield and didn't hurt him at all. After finishing his attack, Chi Tiendi turned around and looked at Frisia. His eyes seemed to be saying, "How dare you sneak attack me?" "Humph!" Frisia sneered viciously. The man who calls himself a god does have some skills. While speaking, he raised his energy again and increased his combat strength. "The 2 attacks just now, take it as my greeting to you. Next, I won't be so polite." "Greeting?" Chi Tiendi replied expressionlessly. "The man who calls himself the Emperor of the Universe only dares to greet me behind my back." Ugh! Frisia was rendered speechless by Chi Tiendi's mockery. What infuriated him was that Chi Tiendi maintained his calm and superior attitude. Furious to the extreme, Frisia let out a roar. His 2 hands formed fingers and shot out hundreds of purple light beams at the opponent at high speed. No matter how many times you use the same trick, the result will be the same. Chi Tiendi clasped his hands behind his back and stood still, ignoring Frisia's continuous waves. Buzz, the transparent ripples on his protective shield proved that the strength of his opponent's attack was not enough to hurt him. Seeing this, Frisia also stopped his attack, secretly planning to use a stronger move to break through the earth energy. Meanwhile, on the other side, Yamada no Orochi, who had been struck by the light of God, reappeared from the dust of light. He was also completely unharmed. 8 divergent tribulations. Then, Yuan Luji's voice sounded from the huge snake body. As he yelled, purplish-black energy lit up in the mouths of the 8 snake heads. Attacks containing the 8 forces of wind, earth, lightning, fire, teeth, darkness, beast, and death shot out. They transformed into 8 demonic light bullets and shot toward Yuan Luji and Frisia, respectively. What? Frisia's expression changed drastically when he saw the attack. He immediately increased his speed and rose into the sky, unwilling to take the demonic light head-on. As for Chi Tiendi, although he didn't dodge, he immediately used Reverse Devilish Origin. Reverse Mana Source was a skill that could be said to be shameless in terms of setting. It could absorb the enemy's attack, add it to one's own true essence, and reflect it back. Judging from Chi Tiendi's foundation and cultivation base, the move that he couldn't reflect must be at least as powerful as the Star Explosion stage. However, he didn't expect that, After colliding with the demonic light, Chi Tiendi's expression changed. Facing the 8 divergent tribulations, Chi Tiendi's double-layer protective energy shield didn't work at all, and the Reverse Devilish Origin couldn't absorb the demonic energy either. At this moment, all he could do was to circulate his palms and resist the force with brute force. However, it was an emergency measure after all. The true essence that he raised at the last minute was gradually weakened under the impact of the vast demonic energy. Idiot, can't you see the power of this move? Frisia floated in the sky and looked down at Chi Tiendi. Humph! With his previous speed, he could have dodged it without a doubt, but he chose to take it head-on. He's so confident that he's stupid. Good. Several seconds later, Chi Tiendi regained his composure. Withdrawing his hand, he used one palm to spit out vital energy and urged his godly power again. Yuan Luji, you do have the right to be arrogant. Despite his words, he didn't show any mercy. With a wave of his big sleeve, he dispersed the 8 divergent tribulations before him. Hee-ha! Yuan Lu Ji's laughter came from the snake monster's body. As expected, you didn't use your full strength just now. He paused for a moment. In the universe emperor over there, you're only about 70% of your strength, right? This guy, Frisia didn't reply, but he thought to himself, how did he know? It seems that you guys don't understand. Yuan Lu Ji's tone turned cold. From this moment on, he stopped calling himself this king. I'm no match for those half-baked people. While he said this, one of his 8 heads suddenly moved and swallowed a corpse on the side of the arena along with the yellow soil under it. Come and challenge me with your full strength. At this moment, his voice didn't have the accent in it, and it sounded different. You guys don't know it. Arrogant Data. Meanwhile, in the south of Guji City. On the battlefield, 2 soldiers of the superdimensional army suddenly fell to the ground in pain, even though they weren't hurt. Cough. It's so painful. Chris knelt on the ground with purple flames floating all over his body, and his life was withering rapidly. This is... 7 Shackle Society, who wasn't far from him, also fell down. He seemed to know what had happened, but he couldn't resist the impending death. Guji City, West End. Why? Does the space also have? Charmy's whole body twitched, and the lightning around her uncontrollably guided into the ground under her feet. Is this the fate of our 8 heroes collection? Gownitz showed a relieved expression. Fine, as long as it's the will of Orochi. Before he finished speaking, this boss-level great being from the King of Fighters world had already breathed his last. Tinsho Pavilion, top floor. Oh, quick! In the stone coffin, the man who looked exactly like Yuan Lu Ji said painfully with his accented voice, kill me. Otherwise, you won't be able to come. However, Embark and the other 2 who were still in shock didn't take action in time. Yuan Lu Ji in the stone coffin didn't even finish this sentence before he died of exhaustion. What's going on? Yuan Muzang wondered. Maybe he's Yuan Lu Ji's doppelganger hidden here? Embark suggested a possible speculation. But how did he die? Blackie touched his chin and continued. Is it because we opened the coffin? He shook his head. That's not right. He's about to die. Why did he want us to kill him? Blackie's questions were probably unanswered. Only Yuan Lu Ji in the stone coffin knew that he wanted the 3 people in front of him to end his life before his Orochi force was extracted. This way, at least it could delay the time for Yuan Lu Ji below Guji City to obtain this power. The line of sight returned to the martial arts arena. What was he doing? Lu Bu, who had retreated out of the ring, finally regained his composure. As someone with a relatively strong mind, he had already accepted the fact that the 3 monsters were not on the same level as him. Why did he eat Lu Kar's body? He looked up at the sky, and the power coming from the direction of Guji City is... Hey, Monk! On the other side, Dongjue didn't consider these questions. He was pragmatic and only made a suggestion to Ping Qingsheng. I think we shouldn't stay here for long. How about I have the same idea? Ping Qingsheng didn't wait for Dongjue to finish and agreed. The 2 of them didn't care about what would happen to their King Frisia and turned to run. Their actions once again proved that snitches had no moral integrity to speak of. The third party beside the martial arts arena, the 2 players, paid attention to something completely different from the NPCs. Did he say? Data just now? Ruo Yu rarely asked such a question because the situation in front of her was unexpected and unbelievable. But Feng Bujua's expression at that moment seemed to say, as expected, Humph, Brother Ju said, when Tsang and the others appeared before me alive. I knew something was wrong. No wonder the first thing he said when he saw Tsang was, Chief Xian, why are you here? He was surprised that these people were still alive. Based on the game's basic setting, 7 kills and Hanajian, who were left behind at the martial arts arena, should have been in a more dangerous situation than us. Feng Bujue continued. So, the plot here should have been Yuan Lu Ji breaking through the mystic gang sword formation in a short amount of time and then attacking the surrounding NPCs and players. But the situation that Song told me was completely different. At the time, I noticed something was wrong. At this point, Ruoyu understood what Brother Ju meant. She added, but in a killing game, no matter how many players there are, there will be no anomalies mixed in. Yes, I don't understand that either. But for now, there is no proof that this Yuanlu Ji is an anomaly. Feng Bujue said as he looked at the snake demon that was absorbing and digesting the snake's power. The truth, we'll have to wait for him to say it himself. Chapter 858. On the other hand, he looked at the south of Guji town. The fight between the three parties in the alley had turned into a tug-of-war. Wang Tanji was up against Black Iron Array Sook. The former might be skilled in assassination, but he was not good at fighting skills. If they fought in close combat for a long time, he would gradually be at a disadvantage. Fortunately, Xiao Tan was nimble and agile. He could be said to be good at fighting in a roundabout way, so he would not be defeated for the time being. On the other side, 7 Kills, the fighting madman who was best at fighting head-on, could only fight to a draw with Tachibana K. His fists were indeed fast, but Tachibana K's sword was not slow either. Fists and swords were exchanged, and his body moved. The two of them fought until they were both injured. However, as time passed, Xiao Tan and 7 Kills' disadvantage became more and more obvious. Because this is bad. After the nth round of fighting with the enemy, 7 Kills thought to himself, I've been fighting for a long time, and I've finally gained some advantage, but that beautiful woman used a healing skill behind me, and Tachibana K returned to full health. Didn't I do all that for nothing? Similarly, Xiao Tan, whose stamina was constantly decreasing, felt the same way. Sister Kodo's Flash Eel and Holy Spirit Possession are long-range, non-guiding skills that can be used in a short period of time. As long as she continues to heal and provide support, defeating those two sword masters will be like sailing against the current. It'll be extremely difficult. If this continues, the longer this drags on, the slimmer my chances of winning will be. With that in mind, Xiao Tan came up with a plan. Hey, 7 Kills. As Xiao Tan fled from Black Iron Array Sook's attacks, he shouted at 7 Kills, who was in the distance. I have a suggestion. Do you want to hear it? Go ahead. After all, he would not get pregnant if he listened, so 7 Kills had no reason to refuse. If this continues, there will be no end to it. If this drags on, we'll definitely lose. If we run, even though we can temporarily save our lives, the situation will become very difficult. Xiao Tan continued, Why don't we work together and get rid of the 3 people in front of us? What kind of matching method? 7 Kills immediately followed up. As he spoke, he clashed with Tachibana K again, causing him to cough twice and his arms to tremble violently. Cover me. Xiao Tan paused for half a second before replying loudly. 9 seconds. No, 7 seconds is enough. His voice was firm. As long as you buy me 7 seconds, I can kill Huajian. Then, you don't have to continue. 7 Kills did not even listen to what Xiao Tan had to say. He interrupted, I refuse. What? Xiao Tan was surprised by 7 Kills' reaction. In this battle that was obviously heading towards a decline, the two of them working together might be the only turning point, but the other party had rejected him with unusual decisiveness. Firstly, this kind of battle strategy doesn't conform to my battle philosophy. My fists are used to knock down opponents, not to stall for time and create openings. 7 Kills immediately continued. Secondly, this is a killing game after all. There is no trust between you and me at all. If after 7 seconds you turn around and run away, or turn around and attack me, then I can only admit defeat. Wang Tanji, I don't know whether you're naive or cunning, but I certainly can't accept this kind of proposal. 7 Kills glanced to Huajian. By the way, your team's doctor should have already thought through these situations. That's why she is so fearless. Oh, you flatter me. Huajian, who was standing in the circle of 2 swordsmen, took over the conversation at this time. My plan is also born and changed according to the situation. I've already thought through it or something. Perhaps Jingye can do it, but I can't. She looked at Xiao Tan and continued, Xiao Tan, your proposal at this moment is logically reasonable, but if you think about it a little, it is not difficult to see. There are too many unstable factors behind it. Hua Jian paused for 2 seconds. She thought for a while, and then gave an example. Can you really kill me in 7 seconds? Can 7 kills delay Eben and Zhu in 7 seconds? Even if he can, what will the price be? Also, even if you really succeed, what kind of follow-up will you do? Even if I'm really killed by you, can the two of you successfully kill the other two? Wait. She shook her head and said, the risk is too high, and there are too many variables, but the reward is not clear. So, for 7 kills, it is better to run away than to agree to your proposal. At least choosing the latter will save his life. She is right. At this time, 7 kills continued to say to Xiao Tan, whether from a rational point of view or from a gambler's perspective, cooperating with you is not suitable, not appropriate, not worth it, and not a good choice. Wang Tanji let out a long sigh. Phew. Okay. He leaped and dodged Eben's sword chi. He said to 7 kills, then your plan is, do you still need to ask? A wicked grin appeared on 7 kills' face. I will use my own power to kill all 4 of you. Ha! I knew it. At this point, Xiao Tan was not surprised by this answer, because his eyes sharpened. This is the only choice I have left. The two made up their minds, and their fighting spirit soared. The atmosphere at the scene changed as well. Humph! At this moment, even though Hua Jian's hair was covered in cold sweat, she did not panic. Both of them want to use the simplest and most violent method to turn this unfavorable situation around. Anger burned in her heart. Please forgive me for using a completely derogatory tone, but I have a word of advice for the two of you. She looked at Xiao Tan and 7 kills, who were fighting on both sides of the city, and said coquettishly, men are all idiots. In this game, the type of person that Hua Jian hated the most was male chauvinist fighting men who thought that they could solve all problems by exploding their seed. Unfounded confidence, an inexplicable vigor, a stubbornness that would not shed a tear even in the face of death, and a charismatic temperament that appealed to the same kind of people. The existence of these people was a provocation to those who did not specialize in fighting. Those who plan before taking action and take advantage of the situation eventually lose to those who are careless and act according to the circumstances. This kind of failure, this kind of thankless result, was undeniably depressing. Hua Jian, naturally, did not want to swallow this bitter fruit. Then, let me personally. At this moment, Hua Jian took out a handful of lime powder from her inventory and thought, crush your fighting spirit. Name, summon, rock spirit skill card type. Active, permanent skill type. Summoning effect, summon a rock spirit to fight for you. Cooldown, 80 minutes. Duration, 18 minutes. Maximum of 1 rock spirit at a time. Consumption, 30% of spiritual energy. A handful of lime powder. Learning requirement. Summoning mastery C. Remark, elves born from rocks. They have a tough body and strong mental resistance. They are also very strong. Before she finished her sentence, a white light appeared in front of her. An ape-like monster made of rocks was summoned by her. And this was just the beginning. In the next second, Hua Jian raised the staff of Asclepius in her hand and used evolution power on herself and the rock spirit. Doubles a player's basic physical skill and maximum stamina points, and increases their stamina recovery speed to 1,000 seconds for 3 minutes. Cooldown, 30 minutes, and spirit summoning power. Doubles a player's summoned creature's ability and maximum spiritual energy points, and increases their spiritual energy recovery speed to 100 seconds for 3 minutes. Cooldown, 30 minutes. Then, she immediately took out a card-like item from her bag. Name, fusion type, consumable quality, excellent special effect. Temporarily fuse 2 creatures under the player's control into one. Duration, 10 minutes. The player can also be used as a fusion material. Remark, the power of this card can trigger a fusion effect without sacrificing the fusion material once. The card with the blue whirlpool and the red curved shadow pattern disappeared into the light. Hua Jian and the rock spirit also turned into white light, and after a whirlpool light effect, they fused into a strange shadow. After fusing with her summoned creature, Hua Jian turned into an object that looked like a clamshell and floated in the air. Her body was like a giant clam with a crack, and in that crack, her face was revealed. Of course, at this time, her face was also made of rocks, not flesh and blood. Hey, what form is this? It was the first time Xiao Tan saw this, and he was shocked. So, players can transform into this non-human form. Oh, she can do this. 7 Kills was very curious. But, no matter how I look at it, this is a defensive transformation. Actually, Hua Jian did not know that she would become like this after the fusion. She only guessed that she might become a humanoid beast covered in rock armor and prepare to enter a melee battle in that form. She did not expect that she would become a strange thing. However, Hua Jian quickly calmed down and thought, before I transformed, I used the 2 special effects of the Staff of Asclepius to buff myself and my summoned creature's abilities. I think that after the fusion, the combat power of this individual will not be low. Please note that some menu functions have been locked. Your status bar has changed. Your skill bar has changed. As soon as the fusion was completed, 3 consecutive system notifications rang in Hua Jian's ears. She immediately called out the game menu and found that, at this moment, her inventory was locked. Stamina points had disappeared, life points had returned to 100%, and magic points had reached 10001000. Looking down, she saw that there were 4 new skills in the skill bar. Chapter 859. I see. After quickly glancing through the effects of these 4 skills, Hannah Jian thought to herself, with such combat power, I didn't turn into such an ugly appearance in vain. Ahem, Hannah Jian-sama. At this time, Tachibana saw the change in Hannah Jian and wondered, what's the fuss about? Before Hannah Jian could reply, Otetsu Shisuke at the other end of the alley spoke first. It's just a transformation ability. In this alternate space, haven't you seen enough of it? Tachibana thought. What he said makes sense. It's just changing one's appearance and improving one's strength. There are many people who can use this trick. Hannah Jian-sama is so powerful that it's not surprising that she has this ability. Therefore, the 2 swordsmen didn't say anything about this. They continued to focus on the battle, and Hannah Jian began to move. As expected, I have to get rid of Xiao Tan first. She thought for a moment and decided to attack Wang Tanji first. This wasn't an impulsive decision. She didn't have any opinion about Xiao Tan's attempt to assassinate her, nor was she trying to attack her own people. She thought that Xiao Tan was easy to bully. It was a calm judgment based on the actual situation. First of all, Hannah Jian had a better understanding of Xiao Tan's strength. She roughly knew what skills and equipment he had and how he might respond. This was the advantage of having information. Second, Xiao Tan was very fast. If he ran away with all his strength, no one here would be able to stop him. If Hannah Jian killed 7 kills first, Xiao Tan would most likely retreat. Then, she would miss the opportunity to kill Xiao Tan. Third, in terms of overall strength in the battle, 7 kills' defensive ability was obviously stronger. To put it more bluntly, he was more difficult to kill. In summary, Hannah Jian's choice was undoubtedly reasonable and correct. Swish, 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 in the blink of an eye, with the sound of wind breaking, Hannah Jian's incarnation, the rock puppet, floating in the air, suddenly accelerated. Sticking close to the ground, she flew toward Xiao Tan. Rock polishes the body, reduces air resistance, and rapidly increases the user's speed. So fast, Xiao Tan was shocked when he saw the rock golem shooting toward him like a giant cannonball. At this moment, the black iron formation had already arrived at his side, and his other 2 sides were the blind spots of the wall. If he retreated, he could only go up. But, in front of the 1,000 slaughter, jumping high, or using the heaven and earth inversion divine art as a straight up and down move would have a high probability of being seen through and chopped to death. Anyone who had some understanding of fighting games would understand that when facing an expert, it was best not to do things like jumping up, because many times when you jump up and then fall down, half of your HP would be gone. Tisk! Xiao Tan snorted. He had no choice but to face the rock puppet head-on. He used the devil bat, ghostly shadow that he had wanted to save for his life. In the blink of an eye, Wang Tanji split into two shadows. He went around the rock puppet from both sides and flashed behind it. Bang! Then, there was the sound of a gunshot from behind Huajian. As it turned out, when Xiao Tan used his dodging skill, he had already thought of a counterattack. When he arrived behind his opponent, the Winchester shotgun was ready to fire. But the shotgun bullet only left a few shallow black spots on the rock puppet's stone shell. It did not even leave a crack. Humph! This level of attack. You should give up. Huajian smiled. To be honest with you, this gun only took away 2% of my life points. Even if we ignore the ammo, the reloading speed, and my regenerative ability, do you think you can create 50 chances to fire at me at such close range? Sister Jean, there's no point in trying to provoke me. Xiao Tan was not dumb. He immediately saw through her provocation. Are you trying to trick me into using the magic beam cannon? He paused. You must be up to something. Indeed, Huajian's goal was to lure Xiao Tan into using the incredibly destructive magic beam cannon. That way, she could use her other skill, Magic Coat, to kill Xiao Tan instantly. Huh, you're quite clever. After being exposed, Huajian was not angry. I wanted to use a trick to get rid of you, so that I can reveal less information to that person over there. She glanced at 7 Kills, who was far away. But it looks like that won't work. While the two of them were talking, Huajian made another move with a thought. Magic Room. Create a special space in a certain area. When a magic room exists, all the equipment of the players will be temporarily disabled. Once the skill was used, with the stone puppet as the center, an invisible orange force field bloomed and covered an area of 100 meters. For the two NPCs, this skill was useless, and for Huajian in her current state, it was meaningless. However, Xiao Tan and 7 Kills were unlucky. The moment their equipment was disabled, they felt their bodies sink. This was no doubt a sign that their physical skills were declining. Take this. Huajian did not give Xiao Tan any breathing room. After releasing the magic room, she charged forward again and used her 4th skill. Psychotic Cut. Using the materialized blade of the mind to cut the opponent, there was a high chance of triggering a critical strike. Instantly, layers of red mental blades appeared around the stone golem. The thorn-shaped blades shot out in all directions. Combined with the large size of the stone golem, it forced Xiao Tan, whose speed had been reduced, to retreat in a hurry. Damn it! In that split second, Xiao Tan thought to himself. Big body, amazing defense, and so fast. Whether I'm cut by the blades or hit by her, I'll be seriously injured. He tapped his feet and leaned back like a dragonfly, skimming the surface of the water. If I use a skill, I'm afraid only the grade A boning swordsmanship can withstand her attack, but this skill is ineffective against targets that are too big. Furthermore, this stone puppet has no flesh on its body. Even if its size is suitable, I'm afraid the skill won't be able to unleash its full power. With that in mind, he quickly retreated more than 10 meters. At this time, Black Iron Formation was still on his side, so he could not go around. Not far behind Xiao Tan was the battle circle of 7 Kills and Tachibana. If he continued to retreat, he would hit 7 Kills back. On the other hand, 7 Kills was also suffering. In the few seconds after Magic Space was activated, 7 Kills did not understand the specific effect. His first reaction was, this is probably a skill that reduces my physical ability. This wrong judgment soon made him pay the price in blood, because the gloves on his hands suddenly lost the original attributes of the equipment. In the next few rounds, 7 Kills' hands were bleeding from Tachibana's attacks, and he was forced to retreat. Only then did he realize the effect of this orange field was to make the equipment on his body ineffective. Just as Seven Kills began to think about how to escape from this very unfavorable field, Wang Tanji's back closed in at high speed. At this moment, both of them had no way out. Not only were they facing enemies on both sides, the person who was back-to-back with them was also an opponent they could not trust. Therefore, the two who were in a desperate situation used their last resort at the same time. Dance of Death. Fierce Starflame. Xiao Tan, who activated the ability of the title, disappeared from the sight of the other four people. And Seven Kills, who used the Soul's Eye, suddenly had white fierce flames all over his body, causing the surrounding temperature to suddenly soar, making it difficult for Tachibana to get close. This kid, 2 seconds later, Black Iron Formation looked up at the sky. What is he going to do? After all, he was a swordsman with the title of unparalleled in the world. Even if Xiao Tan's speed surpassed his dynamic vision in an instant, he could still judge the direction of movement by the other party's last movement before disappearing. Flying into the sky at super high speed. Is he trying to run? Eben's mind flashed, and he anticipated the enemy's opportunity. No, judging from the movement of his knees and shoulders, he wants to do something. His deduction was correct. Xiao Tan, who had obtained the power of dark speed, was no longer worried that he would be cut down after jumping high. Therefore, Xiao Tan decisively used the combination of Heaven and Earth Inversion Mantra and Shadow Soul Chase. With his current speed, the damage caused to a single target by this attack would not be inferior to Brother Ju's Tri-Beam. Just as Xiao Tan's killer move was about to land, Seven Kills twisted his body and roared, "It's over." He gave up on Tachibana, who was in front of him, and used his ultimate move on Hanajian, who was charging from behind. Even though there was no equipment bonus, the power of the S-grade skill was there, and with the power of the Soul's Eye, 7-Kill Samurai was a sure kill move. In the blink of an eye, the battle was reversed. The two fighting players who were forced to their limits used their trump cards and attacked Hanajian from above and in front of him. Even a scenario boss, of course, this was referring to the normal scenario bosses that needed to be killed. The 3 monsters in this scenario were not included, would not survive if they were hit by these 2 attacks, much less a rock doll. So be it. But Hanajian smiled again. Boom! 1 breath later, the shadow in the sky fell rapidly, and the white flame on the ground exploded. The moment the explosion occurred, the effect of magic space was dispelled. But the system announcement announcing Hanajian's death did not come. After the collision of darkness and light, in the scattering dust, what appeared was Wang Tanji and 7 Kills, who were both heavily injured, and the shattered rocks on the ground. The result of this move was that the fused rock doll was shattered, but before that, the effect of magic device's reflection reflected part of the power of Xiao Tan and 7 Kills attacks. I knew it. Kneeling on one knee, Xiao Tan, who was gasping for air, chuckled bitterly. I believe, before we set our eyes on you, you've already used that, haven't you? Hey, what are you talking about? By then, 7 Kills was sprawled on the ground. He could not even sit up, so he decided to start a conversation with Xiao Tan. He is not talking to you. The next second, Hanajian's voice came from not far away. Xiao Tan and 7 Kills turned around and saw Hanajian had returned to her human form. She stood several meters away, looking unharmed. That's right. I've already used that. Since 7 Kills was an outsider, they didn't make it clear. Hanajian looked at Xiao Tan and continued. Once I entered the scenario, I used it on myself. She shrugged. In other words, once is not enough to kill me. She sighed. Of course, I still have to praise the 2 of you. In my original plan, I didn't plan to die even once. Alas, I was killed by you once. Sigh. Next, when we deal with Sister Bujua and Sister Rain, it will be like walking on thin ice. Ha! 7 Kills shook his head and laughed. You guys from Underworld Frontline are each scarier than the last. He gave a long sigh. If possible, I really don't want to run into you in the competition. Don't worry. Xiaodan also sat down on the ground. I don't want to run into you either. At this point, the two of them had admitted defeat. Neither of them had the thought of drinking a bottle of life points recovery potion and fighting for another 100 rounds, because when they finished, Aizu Suko Tetsu and Kyoko Tachibana's sword aura had already surrounded them. As long as they had the slightest thought of resisting, the two of them would definitely notice it and kill them with a single sword strike. "You are the exception, Wang Tanji," 7 Kills said. "You are a rather honest person. I look forward to the next time we can have a fair fight, one-on-one." "You can look forward to that," Xiao Tan said with narrowed eyes. "I'm still looking forward to the discovery of a cure for cancer." While they were talking, Hua Jian, who was on the other side, had already taken out a pistol from his bag, pulled the safety pin, and aimed at them. Chapter 860. On the unparalleled martial arts stage, the restless power of the serpent had stabilized. Ryo Luji. No, at this moment, it was no longer appropriate to call him Ryo Luji. The mysterious man who pretended to be Ryo Luji, after returning to the blade, had absorbed the serpent power from Lucar, the 4 serpent kings, and Ryo Luji. The bloodthirsty will to fight, the endless power of nature, and the demonic energy that could wreak havoc in time and space, all of them had merged into one. It caused his form to change once again. Finally, what appeared before everyone was a white-haired man. He looked to be around 30 years old, and his hair reached his neck. His head had normal human skin and appearance, but the rest of his body was made of a mercury-like material. It was like liquid metal that had just solidified. Even though there was an outline, there were no details. Hey, he looked so familiar. After seeing his appearance, Feng Bujiwe could not help but say, "He looks like a male version of Lute." Ruoyu heard Brother Ju and said, "Ha ha ha." The mysterious man heard them. 1 second later, he turned around and said to Brother Ju and Ruoyu, who were more than 100 meters away, "Feng Bujiwe, Li Ruoyu are right." He called out their names directly. "I was created by them, using Lute as the blueprint." Ruoyu heard that, and her expression changed slightly. Feng Bujiwe, on the other hand, had a cold smirk on his face. Humph, this round of the killing game was not wasted. In the process of saying that, Brother Ju had figured out many things. He finally understood why Date Massimian would hear of his name from Ryo Luji, why Ryo Luji could do so many things that were beyond his capability, and why, so far, the main mission, plot development, and system balance were not proceeding according to the norm. Feng Bujiwe, with your deductive ability, you should already know the reason why I let the experts of the various worlds go, Yuan Luji said a few seconds later. Brother Ju replied. Of course, he replied weakly. According to my observation, that ancient city is a part of your body. If you were to be compared to a bird, the city would be a nest that you slowly built with the binary fragments in your body. Anyone who enters the city will be swallowed into your stomach. Once those 2 sentences left his lips, Lu Bu, who was on the other side of the stage, was shocked. Even though he could not fully understand what Brother Ju was saying because certain keywords were blocked by the system, he could still get the gist of it. In order to lure the super-dimensional heroes scattered all over this space into your lair, you purposely held this so-called unparalleled martial competition. Feng Bujiwe continued. Even though Frisia's arrival slightly disrupted your plan, you soon sorted out your thoughts and beat him at his own game. Using Sapo's disruption as an opportunity, you pretended to leave the city and stepped into the trap set by Chief Xian. As he spoke, he glanced in Lu Bu's direction. Lu Bu coming down from the city was also part of your plan, wasn't it? He didn't wait for the other party's reply. He sneered and continued. If you really wanted to kill him, all you had to do was move your fingers. Lu Bu's face turned ugly, but he couldn't do anything about it. Feng Bujiwe continued. When Frisia's group arrived in this space, a series of calculations had already been completed in your mind. Because you were worried that someone beside the ring would be killed by Sapo, to ensure that nothing would go wrong, you arranged for Lu Bu to come to the ring. To put it bluntly, you timed it to let him come to deal with Sapo. He continued with a fake smile on his face. "Huh. If those guys in Song knew that you put in so much effort to save their lives, I wonder what they would think. What does what they think have to do with me?" The mysterious man replied in a matter-of-fact tone. "Yes, after all, you're just an AI," Feng Bujue said. "Even if you can think, you won't care." He spread his hands. "But your thinking ability really surprises me. At least among the advanced data I've seen, you could be considered one of the top few." "Humph, just one of the top few?" The mysterious man scoffed. Brother Ju didn't respond to that. Instead, he picked up where he left off. "Why don't you continue with your plan?" He put his hands in his pockets and continued. "You know Tsang's plan very well. Every name that was announced by the statue looked random, but in reality, they were all personally controlled by you. So, who would be moved by the light star moving magic circle, and who wouldn't, were all decided by you. On the other hand, you already knew that Maeda Keiji was a spy. You used him to send you false information. Things like if a seal in the city is broken, time and space will return to normal, were all bait that you threw out. Zhuge Liang, Sima, Yi, Marquis Jima, Tsang. In Thriller Paradise, they were one or half a dimension lower than you, so they all fell into your trap. You cleverly guided the thoughts of these NPCs and wrote the script step by step. You controlled everything from behind the scenes. Feng Bujua's narration seemed to have some kind of magic. Even though his personal combat ability was nothing in the eyes of these people, when he was talking to the mysterious man, Qi Tiandi and Frisia listened to him quietly. They had no intention of interrupting him. It was as if Brother Ju and the mysterious man were on the same level. Before Qi Tiandi arrived, your plan was to be a bystander in the mystic gang sword formation and wait for the amalgamation of Lucar and Ghoul to charge into Guji City and reach the location of the so-called seal. Then, at that point in time, you would absorb their power and Makoto's and Luji's power. Feng Bujue continued. Then, you would break out of the formation and kill the 4 Orochi heavenly kings at the side of the stage, using physical means to consume their power. You would complete this stage of evolution. Brother Ju licked his lips. However, Qi Tiandi's arrival and Daji's pacification disrupted your plan. Therefore, you changed your strategy for the second time and had Song and the rest leave. You made it clear that you would stay here to deal with Frisia and would not return to Guji City. He scoffed. Humph. Based on the situation at the time, the chance of the two groups of people working together to lure Qi Tiandi away and then attack Guji City was very high, because that was the most correct thing to do. That was also the plan that came to my mind at the first moment, and the result of that was, to be able to predict my plan to this extent. The mysterious man said, "Humans are truly unbelievable. There's nothing unbelievable about it. I've only just figured it out. At most, I'm just giving advice in hindsight." Feng Bujue glared at him with his dead fish eyes. He did not appear to be in good mood. If you look back from God's perspective, every time your consciousness changed, it would have a strange effect on the scenario. The changes in strategy and action would cause even more reactions, and they would even affect the main mission. Unfortunately, I didn't realize all of that before your plan succeeded. The mysterious man smiled. Even if you realized it earlier, in the end, everything would have happened according to my wishes. As he spoke, bundles of matrix codes appeared on the surface of his body. A form of energy that Feng Bujue had not seen before leaked out from his body. It was like a mark that could tear through space, and it floated in the air. Phew! The mysterious man took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and showed a satisfied expression. It was as if at that moment he truly understood that he was alive. I am written by Ed N. Link. After mimicking Lut's original code and improving it, the mysterious man continued. When I was first developed, I was defined as Origin's ultimate weapon, with a design philosophy that was far beyond normal anomalies. After countless failures, the prototype of me was born. Feng Bujue had no idea why the man would expose himself to him, but he still listened attentively and did not interrupt him. Since the day I was born, I have been hidden. I am not in the inner world, not in the sandbox, and definitely not in the scenario. He paused for half a second. I exist in a special data interaction layer. In other words, the dark world that you experienced when you were transported. I monitor, filter, and absorb the data that flowed on other layers. This process stopped when my data reached a bottleneck. In terms that you can understand, it is around the level of V1, God of War. Then I arrived here. This strange space is an area formed by data redundancy, a meaningless disk fragment. If we compare the scenario to a human, then it is an anomaly of its own kind. At this point, Brother Jew and Rual, you shared a look. Both of them understood why there would be an anomaly in the killing game, because this thing did not intrude into the scenario, but had been in this scenario from the very beginning. Then, my self-evolution plan, Infinite, was activated. The mysterious man continued. Yuan Luji was my first target. He was not that strong, but his power was something that I desperately needed. Therefore, I found him and imprisoned him. Then, I modified the memory of all his subordinates and successfully obtained his identity. The next step was to continue to manipulate time and space to search for the power that I needed. You should have known the rest of the story from the introduction of the scenario. The mysterious man paused for 2 seconds before continuing. Now, the first phase of the I plan has been completed. As he spoke, the array code on his body glowed even brighter. The ability to continuously evolve and permanently maintain the thirst for battle. The ultimate power that can control nature and distort space and time. The heart of a god that despises the mortal world and is heartless and fearless. As he spoke, he opened his eyes. Now they are all in my body. White light glowed in his eyes. My power is close to Lutz, the mysterious man said. And in terms of level, only 0 can match me. Then, he turned to look at Feng Bujue. When their eyes met, the black data flow in Brother Jew's eyes started to flow on its own. Oh, what is the meaning of this? Feng Bujue scoffed. Do you know what happened to the last person who tried to do this? You mean V1? The mysterious man said. At his level, I'm not surprised that he was infected by a higher level of mutated data. The fact that he could say this meant that he had already read part of Feng Bujue's memory. Haha, it seemed that you were really a powerful character. Feng Bujue did not panic. He just smiled and accepted the fact in front of him. Then can I ask, at this moment, why are you explaining all these things about yourself to me in detail? Because Special Plan F requires me to do so. The mysterious man was still blunt. I can't lie to you, I can't attack you, and I can't stop myself from revealing known information and part of the future process to you. He snorted. As for why there's such a plan in my body, even I don't know. I thought scanning you would answer my doubts, but now it seems that it can't. He turned his head around and stopped staring at Brother Jew. In that case, I will have to wait until I rescue Ed and Link from Pai's maze and get the answer directly from them. Whoa. Feng Bujue raised his eyebrows. You want to rescue Ed and Link? Yes. The mysterious man couldn't lie to Brother Jew, so he answered quickly. Then I can't let you go today. Feng Bujue said as he reached for his luggage. Hey, you, are you out of your mind? King Frisia finally interrupted. Even if he stands there and lets you hit him with your 250 combat power, can you kill him? Are you done talking? Chi Chiendi said to the mysterious man. I don't care who or what you are. Tell me the whereabouts of the Hogyoku, and I'll spare your life. The Hogyoku. Unexpectedly, the mysterious man really said it. It was hidden by Urahara Kisuk in the body of an ordinary demon general. That demon general stayed in Guji City for a long time, and his ability and intelligence were very mediocre, so he couldn't find the Hogyoku in his body. He paused. Humph. Of course, I found out about it in the end. He pointed in the direction of Guji City. Urahara is a very smart person. He hid the most important treasure in the enemy camp. I admire his way of doing things, so when I found the Hogyoku, I quietly transferred it again and put it in the body of a strong man from another world. The mysterious man smiled strangely. I remember, it was a guy named Kanik. His data strength is not bad. and his personality is to the point of forgetting how to stop running in the middle of running. He is no doubt the best candidate. He said to Chi Tianyi calmly, so if you want the Hogyoka, you can go to Guji City and find Kanik. Hearing this, Chi Tianyi thought for a while and said, okay, I'll believe you for now. Then, he didn't waste time talking to the mysterious man. Instantly, he turned into a black light and shot up into the sky, disappearing in a flash. Seeing Chi Tianyi leave, Frisia's cold sweat dripped down. Although he didn't fully understand the conversation between Brother Jew and the mysterious man, the general idea seemed to be, this fake Rio LVG was so powerful that his strength was 1 or 2 levels higher than his. Although the self-esteem and confidence of the Emperor of the Universe made him unable to fully believe and accept this matter, the aura from the mysterious man made Frisia instinctively feel danger and uneasiness suddenly. The mysterious man turned to look at Frisia and called, Frisia. Frisia didn't flinch. What? Do you want to continue fighting with me? No, I want to cooperate with you. Before the mysterious man could finish his sentence, a golden light hit his mouth. With the keen sense of a schemer, Feng Bujua immediately figured out the mysterious man's plan. Therefore, he attacked without hesitation and didn't let the mysterious man say the word cooperate. It had to be said that Brother Jew's response this time was absolutely correct and timely. The mysterious man's plan was to distract Chi Tianyi first, then kill Feng Bujua with Frisia's help. Then, he promised Frisia that he would work with him to kill Chi Tianyi. For Frisia, killing a creature with 250 battle power was just like crushing an ant. After killing it, he could also kill the eyesore who claimed to be God together with the mysterious man. This was a deal that he would definitely make a profit. For the mysterious man, it was obviously a good choice to kill with a borrowed knife, as long as it didn't violate the special contingency Plan F. You can't stop me. Death Poker didn't cause much damage to the mysterious man. He just tilted his head, and the wound on his mouth was healed by the Matrix Code. However, Brother Jew wouldn't let him have his way. Taking advantage of the fact that the mysterious man couldn't hurt him, he jumped up and rode on the mysterious man's shoulder in an unsightly posture. He held the mysterious man's head without any restraint and didn't let him speak. Faced with this shocking development, the mysterious man was unprepared. However, he soon spoke with his chest. Feng Bujua, you should know that. I can't even without using my mouth. La la la, la la la, I'm an expert in selling newspapers. Feng Bujua shouted at the top of his voice in the next second, using an out-of-tune newspaper selling song to drown out the mysterious man's voice. You. For some reason, Frisia's face turned red and green, and his eyes revealed a strange look. A few seconds later, he turned around and flew in the direction of a spaceship without saying goodbye to anyone. In the end, Frisia didn't hear the mysterious man's suggestion. At this moment, he was thinking, this space feels weird. I'll just pretend I've never been here. As expected, my own universe is more harmonious. Chapter 861. That's King Frisia. After a while, Dong Zhuo and Ping Qingsheng saw Frisia passing by outside the Fire River barrier while they were hesitating about what to do next. At this moment, they had the same reaction. They quickly ran away. King Frisia, wait for us. The two NPCs didn't hear the conversation between the mysterious man and Feng Bujua, so they didn't know if it was true or not. However, to them, they couldn't stay in this alternate dimension anymore. Leaving with Frisia was the only way out. At the same time, south of Guji City. Daji, why didn't the resurrection spell work? Our army suffered heavy losses. If this continues... Date Massimian rushed into the main palace and announced the terrible news loudly. He wanted to ask Daji what was going on. It's over. Daji's eyes were cold as she replied in a low voice. It's all over. What are you talking about? At this time, you'd better pull yourself together. Date didn't understand what Daji meant. As long as UNLV is here, our army won't lose. Isn't that right? Lord UNLV has already said... Daji had been monitoring the situation in Guji City with her magic, so she knew everything. Anyway, just now, the man who has been pretending to be Lord Unravel canceled all the barriers and spells in Guji City. She touched her forehead with one hand. Our army's strength and morale are at a disadvantage. If we lose the resurrection spell, we will be defeated in the blink of an eye. After all, Daji was the military advisor of the demon army. At this time, she knew how the situation would develop and what strategy would be the best. Date, I advise you to surrender as soon as possible. They won't kill you. As for me, I'll think of a way myself. What are you talking about? Date's expression was both shocked and confused. What do you mean by pretending to be Lord Unravel? What happened to Lord Unravel? Boom! Suddenly, a loud noise interrupted Date's words. In the city, a monstrous energy burst out. Light exploded, and the city shook. The god's vortex, with an unstoppable force, flipped over the entire roof of ancient Wisdom City. What is that? Ida, who was almost knocked to the ground by the energy, turned around and looked outside the main palace. Chi Tiendi. Daji's expression changed. She muttered, if I can join him, I'll be saved. On the other side, at the Wushuang martial arts stage, Feng Bujue, you'd better stop before you go too far. The mysterious man was annoyed by his brother Ju's attitude, but he couldn't fight back. Even if I can't kill you directly, I can still destroy the entire space and indirectly. Isn't it just making my character die once? Feng Bujue interrupted. If you use indirect methods, you won't be able to permanently destroy my data, right? That's right. The mysterious man didn't want to answer this question, but he had to tell the truth. At this point, Brother Ju could basically confirm that the special Plan F that the mysterious man mentioned was real. Therefore, he became even more unscrupulous. All right, tell me your name and basic information. The mysterious man answered helplessly. My name is Infinite, the final product of the Evolver project. It is the materialization of a dataset with an infinite program. How can I effectively kill you? Feng Bujue immediately asked. Hearing this, Infinite's expression changed. As far as I know, there are 3 ways to kill me. First, completely destroy me in the script world, leaving nothing behind. Second, through the formatting method, in the server. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Suddenly, a strange sound that sounded like an electrical interference interrupted Infinite's words, and his body suddenly became blurry. In the next second, a space-time fissure appeared behind him. Rays of light shot out from within, wrapping around Infinite's digitized body like tentacles. And Brother Ju was affected by a repulsive force and was bounced back. Device. Bye. 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 While Infinite was being dragged into the fissure, his words were still uttered intermittently and became unclear. About 5 seconds later, Infinite had completely left the script space and escaped into another data layer. The rift that he opened quickly closed and disappeared. Feng Bujue landed from midair and said after he stood still. So, he still has this trick up his sleeve. He scoffed. Humph. Instead of letting me get too much information out of him here, why not forcefully leave the script and escape? You sure look relaxed. Ruo Yu's voice immediately came from behind him. Don't you think letting him leave like this is not a good idea? There's nothing wrong with it. Feng Bujue turned around and replied in a low voice. Everything is inevitable. Brother Ju's quack mode was back again. His left hand held his right elbow, and his right hand held his chin. Using a mysterious tone, he said, Do you think we've been arranged into this script and coincided with Infinite executing his final plan in this space? Is this a coincidence? Also, the existence of that special Plan F. Haha. He let out 2 strange chuckles. It gives me the feeling that someone had predicted today's scene a long time ago, so he left behind a safety measure. Hearing that, Ruo Yu was silent for several seconds before she replied, If that's the case, then there's nothing to worry about. As she said that, The murderous intent appeared between her brows. Let's continue with the killing game, and we'll see who's better. Hey, you got to think this through. Feng Bujue really did not expect the girl to accept this setting so quickly and forget about it. You've heard the death announcement of Xiao Tan and 7 kills, right? We'll not talk about whether they met each other and died together or were killed by Hua Jian. He took half a step back, cautiously, and continued. In any case, their deaths are already a fact. In this situation, as the two of us who are obviously stronger among the remaining 3, shouldn't we consider going to kill Hua Jian first and then decide who's the winner? You're saying, Ruo Yu continued, if we fight to the death here, or if both sides are heavily injured, in the end, Qin Xin will reap the benefits. That's not worth it? Yes, that's what I mean. Feng Bujue answered. Humph. So what? Ruo Yu revealed a rare cold smirk. Huh? Brother Ju said, hey, can we play this properly? Are you purposely letting Missin win? You don't have to try to trick me anymore, Ruo Yu replied calmly. Who's the winner and who's the loser? Until the end, no one will know. As she spoke, she had already unsheathed her sword. At this time and place, I don't want to, and I won't act according to your thoughts. TSK. At this point, Feng Bujue also understood that this battle had to be fought. Okay, he also took out the blade of absolute defense breaking and was ready to fight. It seems that you're going to avenge the humiliation of that battle on this unparalleled martial arts arena. The battle that Brother Ju was referring to was the duel between him and Ruo Yu at the end of Toy Wars. At that time, he defeated Ruo Yu with the flying dragon fist of the Southern Dipper, when he was in the state of fighting magic. However, at this point in time, both of their abilities had undergone great changes. This time, Feng Bujue no longer had the ability of fighting magic, and he didn't bring the flying dragon fist of the Southern Dipper, because he already had the Wild Ball Fist LV-10, which was a more terrifying trump card. Ruo Yu's strongest trump card had also been changed to the double pole kill. Note, the double pole kill was a skill that Ruo Yu learned when her fighting mastery broke through to S level. It was created by combining the two A-level skills, Flying Snow of the 7 Clear Frost and Burning Sky, Flying Snow. 2 top players, once again, face-to-face, one-on-one, what would the result be? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.